So what's up? I don't know if this is on or not. Boom, boom,
Yeah,
boom,
it says live.
boom, boom, boom. Okay. Um, hello everyone, and welcome back to Elevated Beyond with a two-word mission statement: change lives. And I'm here with Shadow, our little dog, and also look at let's hit this up. Boom, Mr. Anton Wisbiski.
There you go.
I
Nice.
over enunciated it to not screw it up.
Thank you for having me, man. Excited to be here.
So no, we're sitting down. We're gonna go over a lot. I've got to know Anton actually from doing business with him over time. Connected with him, he's the real deal. All of you watching this know I've had my company for 16 years plus, and I love bringing people in. Not only like I don't even know your full actually backstory of what I know you've been through a lot to build it up, but has built
sure.
up a lot of success and now has your book coming out, CEO Squared. What's the subtitle?
It's a guide to change your identity and build a 7-figure business
Nice. And it's releasing
this Friday.
this Friday. So if you're watching this live, you can check it out. And then when this airs, probably next week,
It'll be out.
and so we'll have all the good stuff in the show notes. And yeah. And also, just to I like to be honest with people too for transparency and credibility. I've worked with Anton and with his company. He has a legitimate company with multiple team members that he's built up for how many years now?
I've been in business for 6 years, about to be 7.
6 years. And it's a
This business, I should say.
well, no, but you've really built up, I don't want to say just social media marketing because it's more than
Way
that.
more than that. Yeah.
But it's really strategic to like higher end. How would you categorize people that have made it to a level to be able to be
Yeah. So our ideal client is really somebody who has a niche already, like who has an audience they're talking to, or they have a book, or they're selling something to a specific audience. It's not just theory. They've made some money, maybe had some speaking gigs or done events or wrote a book or have courses, something like that. That's really our ideal client. We can still help somebody who's fresh off the rip, but we have found like longevity wise, it usually doesn't last because first of all, it's a big
expensive.
it's a big investment, right? And secondly, it's like they're not even fully clear on what they're talking about, so it confuses kind of everything that's going on. So we like to stick with people who know kind of what they're doing, have some following, and we build up from there with our expertise.
Well, that's another thing we could get into later, because the cost of it is way higher, and that means you got to a level where you're delivering services to know, okay, this is at this higher level of services delivered, and we're going to be more strategic to get these certain clients. Because if it was someone at a lower level, not only would they not be able to afford it, but I would be like, no, learn to do that even more on your own till you can even get and grow to another level.
That's a great perspective. Most people don't think like that, but it's absolutely true. Like, I don't think you should be building, I don't think you should worry about a social media brand until your business is at 6 figures. If your business is not at 6 figures and you're worrying about content and posting content and hiring a team to do your content,
And that's
just silly.
Yeah.
But what's worse than hiring is the person who thinks building their social media is productive to building their business. That comes way later.
Right. And it depends on like what you're doing too. It's not saying not to be doing something.
No. But it's like at the
you
end of the
could be
day, you need
spending-
customers. You need to be selling. You
You
need
have
to
to be bringing in
bringing
revenue.
money. Right.
Yeah. You got to be on the grind. And it's like, cool, you can spend 8 hours, grow your page, and have all these followers, but then you're not actually bringing in clients and making sales for what you do.
Exactly. They confuse
It's
activity.
backwards.
Yeah, they confuse activity with productivity. I've seen it so many times. I deal with younger people tend to, when I say younger, I mean, I've worked with all types of people, but in my coaching business, I tend to attract more younger people, 25, 26, 27, 30. And those people, they have usually a business, and sometimes they're at six figures or they're not at six figures. And they're thinking that by, spending all this time editing this video, doing this thing and putting it out on Instagram, that's going to correlate to building their business. And a lot of them get themselves into sticky waters because they think they're working towards their business, but really they just spent 5 hours building a social media post.
Right. And it's funny because you literally have a social media company.
Yeah.
So and you're being honest, because if you were
Super
like
honest,
everyone,
it's just the truth.
there's levels to it.
There absolutely
And
is.
it's like what our dude Gary Vee says, like you should be in social media. Of course, that should be part of your strategy depending on what you're doing. But there's different levels to it. It's the same with your books coming out. I've had a couple. I remember when like at speaking events and stuff, people have asked me a lot, like they said, someone told me I need to have a book to be credible. And I'm like, I need more information from you. I'm like, do you want to write a book, first of all? Because it's a hell of a lot of work. And how far, like with Dreamshine, it wasn't until I was like 7 years in the company to where I was like, oh, I'm ready to have a story to share. I couldn't have even spent a second wasted on, and I'm not saying it's just not one thing works for everyone. And people, they're usually that sell that are in like the book selling business. Oh, by the way, I'm a ghostwriter and blah, blah. You know what I mean? It's like,
I've seen it so many times that you have these you have these coaches and these speakers who are glorified by the world, or they teach people how to make money, yet they made all their money through their coaching practice or their business that is speaking. And that just didn't make sense to me. I've actually worked with people like that. And I was like, wait, as I got older and wiser and I started to see behind the curtain, I was like, wait, you're teaching people how to manifest money, yet your business is teaching people how to manifest money. Like, that didn't make any sense to me. It actually pissed me off. And I was like, you're misleading people. That's wrong.
Yeah, no, it pisses. That's the whole reason why I started this show years ago, was to be having like myself and others come on and share the story behind the story of overcoming adversity to achieve success. Because when they go up there and even with leadership or anything, when they make it so cookie cutter and these perfect 10 steps, and it's like, it sets people up to think, well, I'm failing because I'm doing that and it's not working.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if we're being real, they would admit that they did a 20 million steps to get to a point where they had those 10 systematic steps 15 years later. And there's so much trial and error and failure,
There
you know
is.
this.
And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs who write about that stuff also don't measure the intangibles between, like, the difference between a hard skill set and a soft skill set. Like, a hard skill set is something very, like, clearly measurable, such as, good at video editing. A soft skill set is being good with communicating with people in a meeting about your video editing. Like, that's a totally different thing. Now, the person who may be really good at video editing, that's a hard skill. But what they need to succeed is the soft skill, because they need to know how to sell it.
Right.
And that's kind of like, I don't say that directly in my book because it's a little bit complex, but that's what I'm alluding to. There's a lot of really good entrepreneurs who have a really good skill, but they suck at running a business, or they don't know how to sell it, or it's this, or it's that.
Right. You got to learn how to go ahead.
No. Yeah. You got to learn how to sell it. And I've worked with so many people that they have something really good, but they never create the financial abundance because they do not know how to run the business end of things.
Yeah. And they think that, oh, well, if it doesn't come naturally, then it's like, no.
Horrible mentality.
You have to do stuff that you hate, that aren't your natural skills
1,000%.
to push your passion forward.
1,000%.
Like, every story you hear of everyone, I mean, me with Dreamshine in 07, I'm mailing out brochures in the mail for people to come to our company with disabilities. I'm
That's
showing up
awesome.
at every school. I'm speaking to every I'm going, it's just knocking on doors,
I
doing.
love that.
And I'm just was thinking, I wasn't thinking, I was just like, I got to get this anywhere and everywhere. Eminem selling the EPs out of the trunk of his car.
Yep.
It's like he didn't want to be a sales, but it's like you got to do whatever it takes till you get to the level where you are.
100%. That's exactly how my social media company started. I wasn't necessarily passionate about social media. That wasn't what birthed the business. What birthed the business was I had somebody in my life who had a very profound spiritual gift, and I wanted to help spread their message. And I saw social media as the vehicle to do that. So what did I do? Because I was hungry and I was young, I said, you know what? What makes the difference in social media? Well, good video editing, good captions, growth. So then on my own, when I didn't even have my business yet, I was working for this startup for free, by the way. I just learned all these skills because I wanted to
free.
For free. Yeah.
Boom, for free, by the way.
For
It'll
free.
change up there in the.
Yeah, because
People need to hear that though.
Yeah, I
because
stayed
they
there
don't understand.
No, it's a sacrifice, man.
The mindset I have been seeing is so important, and that's what I want to get in even more too. Where you talking about the spirituality and speaking of soft, becoming too soft as far as men, and then what it takes to be like a man, like getting into that also, because I know that's a big part of your message, and I love that.
Yeah.
But people will think, I have heard people in their 20s tell me, well, I'm too overqualified for that. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't
ridiculous,
even know
man.
where to start other than like smacking you in the face. You've got to be, there's so many different levels. And a perfect example of this is 50 Cent, Curtis Jackson. Have you read his or listened on Audible, The 50 Laws of Power?
Oh yeah, I love Robert Greene, man.
Yeah.
He's like my go-to author.
Oh, that book is so good. Well, I
All
love
his
how
books are good.
transparent Curtis Jackson is. And he's like,
Keeps it real for
when
sure.
I started my show on HBO, I had never been like in the position of directing a show, producing a show, and I was super famous in hip hop. And when they brought me on, HBO was like, we're only going to pay you $5,000 an episode. All of his friends were laughing. They're like, are you kidding me? Like, that's a disgrace. That's a slap in the face. And he's like, I could go and sing one song literally and make like 500,000.
Oh, 500,000. Yeah.
They were only offering him 5,000
Got it.
per episode.
Ah,
And he's
got
already
it.
this famous to do full episodes on HBO.
Did he say yes?
He said, of course I said
Yeah,
yes,
that's
because
what I thought.
what they didn't comprehend is I was coming back into this as a beginner, and I looked at this as, I don't care if they don't even pay me anything right now. I'm going into HBO and I'm learning how to produce, direct, and run and I'm going to study how it works. And he said, and then it was something like 4 years later, all of a sudden they're offering them like 65 million for like a renewal contract.
Yep.
But if he listened when everyone's like, and let the ego get involved of you're too overqualified, he's like, you have to switch that mindset when you're stepping into a new realm.
100%. I hire a lot of young people because I like young people, a part of my culture, because I think when it comes to what we do, there needs to be people who grew up with the landscape of social media.
Right.
At the same time, I have older people as well who take care of some of the more important things that help the business sustain.
Of course.
But what I have seen was the churn, man, it's insane. And it's not because I'm not a good leader or these things. It's because these kids, man, and I call them kids, even though some of them are my age, or some of them are older, but they're in the mentality of a child. Like they're entitled. This Gen Z and millennial generation is so entitled. Like I've hired my own friends, giving them an opportunity.
Which, by the way, there's definitely hard workers
and there is
in every.
I'm one of them. I'm a millennial.
Right. So you have to weed them up.
You got to weed them out. They're
the herd mentality. Go back.
Yeah, but the masses of my generation and my brother's generation, they're so entitled, and it really does come back to their parents, I will say. Like, that's one thing with me. I'm from the Midwest, man. I'm from Macomb, Michigan. My dad was a UPS man, never made more than 70 grand in a year. Took care of 3 kids and a wife. Like, we weren't born wealthy by any means. And every single summer from the time I can remember, like, I don't, it goes back as early as I remember my childhood. My dad made us work.
That's
We
great.
worked in the yard. We did rocks. We did grass. We did landscaping. We cut the grass. We did every single summer. I was not hanging out with my friends until my work in the morning was done. And guess what? He didn't pay me allowance. He didn't pay me anything. He said, this is what you do as a man under my roof.
Right.
And I actually dedicated my book to my father.
I love that.
Because
it gives you that work ethic.
It gave me that work ethic. And I look around at all these people who work with me, my friends, this and that. Dude, they come in, they work for 6 months, and they automatically think they deserve like a 6-figure fucking pay. I'm just like, you guys are ridiculous, man. You have no idea. You have no idea what it really takes to earn that money.
Yeah.
You know? And that's why they won't win, because they have this short-term mindset that has come from society's message of like, oh, you should be making 6 figures by 25, and if you're not, you need to go to the next opportunity.
Right.
It's like, dude, I've been in business for 7 years. You've been in business for 16 years.
Yeah.
How many years did it take before you made your first million?
A decade, probably.
A decade.
And I don't even know. There's times where they were like, congratulations, your net worth is $1 million. But I was like,
take home. Right.
Not,
you don't feel it.
I'm like,
there's a difference between a cash and net worth.
Our payroll and our, I'm like,
right.
Yeah, it's not all liquid. It's not. So that was before. And it's ongoing. Like this year, all of our expenses have gone up like 100. And I just was having a meeting before this show. Like, I have this podcast I do on the side. I run my company Dreamshine ongoing all the time. Things have gone up so high, and what we're battling with, and we have doubled everyone's pay, and we're working on we bill like the insurance, Medicaid, Medicare.
Right.
We don't get a raise. We can only bill what the rates are. So they haven't changed since 2007. No, 8.
Wow.
Think how much expenses have changed, and to be able to make a company succeed throughout that. But this year it's hit insanely. And thank God, from working my butt off, branching out, learning how to invest in other things, other strategies.
Yep.
And that took years to even do to get to that level. But also it took years of living. I had times where people on my team were driving
More
nicer cars than me, making more than
100%.
me.
Same here.
And
so many people, man, they like, I went through this a lot 2 years ago. A lot of young people on my team, a lot of people who were with me for 2, 3, 4 years. So they kind of saw some of the more coming up phase.
Right.
You know, I got a nicer car. I got these things and this and that. Nothing crazy.
Does it make you feel, when you do that, does part of you in your head think, oh man, what's my team going to think about if they see that nice car?
Not anymore. But it did at a time.
Yeah.
When I lived in LA, I had a couple employees, and you know, I wasn't paying them anything crazy. I think the top girl on my team was making like $36,000 a year, very low.
Right.
But this is like the whole business at the time was making like 300 grand with like 40% margins. Like, it wasn't anything crazy.
Well, I mean, like when you get it,
but like this is what I want to say.
When you worked your butt off to get it,
they don't like
they
this is
don't
the thing
see
about
that. Like, how do you overcome that part?
I just
in
thought,
your mind.
Well, I just, for me, it was like, in the beginning, it's like, yo, I fucking earned this.
Right.
But as I got more mature, now I'm always first to invest in my team before I invest in something for me personally.
For me too.
Yeah, always. And there's been months where I didn't get a paycheck.
Me too.
I got zero. I got just enough to cover my bills in my life, but my team all got their paycheck.
Right.
Now, they don't have the same responsibilities as I have.
Right.
You know, 15, now 17 employees, this thing, that thing, blah, 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 blah. It's like, it's just a different thing. And everyone's selfish, and everyone works in their own self-interest. Like, that's just how human nature is. So they're not thinking about me, but I am thinking about them, you know? So
right. In the company, of course.
In the company, because you got to keep it healthy. So I saw this like weird phase of like all these younger people looking at me like, oh, like on my own team, like feeling this enviness. And I was just like, yikes, man. Like, first of all, I feel bad that you have that mentality because that's not going to serve you in life. And I'm a pretty fucking nice boss in my opinion, but you can't bring that shit around here or you're gone.
Right.
And I put that foot down hard. And I've had to let go of many friends. And this is why one of my principles in my book is don't do business with friends because it hurts when you arrive at that point.
My wife and I were just talking about that.
When you arrive at that point when you got to fire a friend, it really is hard for them, you know? For you, it's unemotional.
Well, it can ruin your friendship.
It's ruined many friendships for me, man. Like more than I'm happy to admit.
That's a principle I talk about all the time. So when it comes to friends and family, I don't specifically not hire them, but what I do is I'll have someone recommend it and I'll say, cool, contact our program director and you can go so you go through the interview process.
That's exactly
if
the shift I recently made.
Think you're a good fit,
they'll decide, not you.
But I'm not vouching for you. Yeah, and then
I love that.
Speaking
That's
of
the way to
kids,
do it.
As our kids get older, my oldest son and nephew, there's a time where he's like talked about wanting to do stuff and I'm like, that's awesome. If you really want, I love for you. If you want to be a part of Dream Shine, you're going to come in though and need to outwork everyone. You're not coming in there as I'm the owner's son.
Absolutely not.
Because I was just there the week before last. You've seen the pond that we have now that it's I was in there. I put on my boots. I was swimming because the waterfall went out.
I saw your story.
I had to.
Like, this is awesome.
I ended up totally getting in, and I heard it was cool. Some of our new team members were like, "Who is that?" And I heard someone else saying like, "Oh," and they're like, "Is that the owner?" And I'm like, there's like snakes slithering by.
Let's go.
And
that's what it takes, man.
Dude, to me, it was kind of therapeutic.
I'm sure it was because you love hard work. You love serving, man.
Yeah.
That's the thing about business owners.
Yeah. But, and they don't see that part of it. But go ahead.
No, they don't.
With the friends and the family.
So like,
and
this is a mistake I made. And I put this in the book, actually. At the end, I have 33 principles to live by to make your business life way easier. One of them is don't do business with your friends. And if you do business with your friends, do exactly what you just said. Take them through your own process, not the owner's process, the actual process of the company.
Because it's
a business.
It's business.
And this is what I did. I made this mistake so many fucking times, man, that like I even made this mistake this year multiple times. I'll hire a friend because I like them. I see their potential, but then I will onboard them. Worst thing you could do.
It's the worst
thing you could do. Yep.
You're talking to them as a friend.
Exactly. They're outside of the system of how the company runs. Like my own employee gave me feedback and he was like, and this was my friend. He's like, listen, dude, you should have had a quarterly meeting with me before you fired me. And I'm looking at my KPIs and I'm like, I have a quarterly meeting. Actually, I have a monthly meeting.
Oh, you do KPIs too. That's cool.
Yeah, you have to. I have a monthly meeting with every new staff member. Standard.
Right.
But because he's a friend, he didn't get the feel of my company.
Right.
And I did him a disservice, you know? That was my fault.
That's a learning curve for you.
It's a big learning curve. And this has happened so many times.
You didn't set those boundaries.
Exactly. I didn't set the boundaries. So I learned the hard way and I was just like, no more, never again. So I just vetted just like I'm not gonna hire friends or family anymore. And even with my brother, like, you know my brother, you've met my brother, he works for me.
Yep.
James is, he's kick ass. I don't really see him as I don't see any of my employees as quote employees. I see them as partners because I am making my business as ESOPs, which is a whole other conversation. But
you still do have to have, say you or your brother you have your company's core values, you step to your team, and one of the two of you is noticing whatever it is, like, dude, you're coming in and you're screaming at everyone, or you're not ever showing up on time. That's where you got to step.
Oh, you got to step in. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Like literally today, he didn't come on my social media team. They have a Monday meeting. Everyone has to attend. It's part of the protocol of the company. And he didn't show up.
Now we're firing you.
And he didn't say anything. Sure. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? Like, you can't just do that. Like, and I had a conversation with, our director, and he had a conversation with my brother. And it's just like, yo, you're not getting a hall pass because you're my brother. Now, by the way, my brother never does that. This was a rare occurrence. But the moment it happened, I was on him like a hawk. I was like, listen.
Because everyone's watching you.
Everyone's watching, and I don't want this company to be, I don't want my leadership team behind closed doors to make decisions and have this filter of like, oh, well, that's Anton's brother. Oh, well, that's Anton's brother. Oh, well, that's Anton's friend. No. If that's happening in my company, it's not healthy. So I'm very hard on this because a lot of, and I'm like this because I deal with a lot of early entrepreneurs. An early entrepreneur, the first people they're going to hire are their friends and their family. So if they know this going in, it will save them so much pain. A lot of them won't listen.
No,
they'll do it anyway.
They won't.
They got to learn on their own.
If they do, and when you're ready to learn and you get there, then ask. Then I'm able to. We can give even advice of, okay, here's how you deal with this now, because it's like you just have to have that uncomfortable conversation and be real, and
you have to have the work.
This is what we have to do, and then you separate your jobs, and you really got to be like, this is the business thing. Here's what you oversee. Here's what our core values are. So
they got to know exactly what their expectations are, and you got to have it in writing. If you don't have it in writing, it's gonna end up bad, because as soon as things get emotional, people like to get into stories. But if you go back to the email or the contract or the whatever's written, be like, look, man, this was your responsibility. This was your responsibility. Here's the values. You violated this. You violated this. You violated this. And then it's like black and white. Instead, if you don't have that, they think you're attacking them. But it's like, yo, man, just because you're a friend, that's why you feel this way. If this was any other person, they would have been gone a long time ago. And I had to learn that mistake, man, one too many times. Now I'm at the point of like, no more.
And sometimes and then you can continually meet, and also sometimes you can readjust as you grow. Some things you may have overseen, or 100%. Your partner may be like, oh, wait, actually, this doesn't even make sense for you to be doing anymore.
Oh, yeah. And I have a whole chapter on that, operator to owner.
So
to like what really allowed me to scale my business to 7 figures was when I actually had a team, and specifically integrators and operators, who could build a system around like my art, I call it. So I'll give you the little kind of overview. So in the book, I talk about how there's 3 types of entrepreneurs. The first entrepreneur is an artist entrepreneur. This is the person who's specific skill. They're very good at one thing. They tend to want to serve the client at the highest level, and they have done something that makes them very gifted at this one thing. The second type of entrepreneur is the integrator slash operator. This is the person who isn't necessarily good at starting a business, but they're really good at running a business. The reason why is because they can build systems, and they tend to build systems around the art of the artist. And this allows them to scale. So together, those two are very dynamic.
That's right.
Then there's a third
that almost
entrepreneur.
goes with a disc test. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and then there's a third entrepreneur, and this is the pure entrepreneur. This is the person that will get into the business just for money. This is the person who's usually a visionary. They're very good at recruiting, and they love to maximize a business and then sell it for a multiple.
Yeah.
That's the pure entrepreneur. So I work with a ton of artists, and artists, they need the operations person. They need the integrator.
Right.
And then, because if they don't, if you're the artist and you have this very specific skill, creative, it's just the person with a very specific skill.
Sure.
They cannot be doing that skill to serve the clients, trying to manage the employees, trying to do this, trying to do that. They'll play whack-a-mole all day long.
Yep.
Not until
not
an integrator
is the right personality trait to. Leadership is a skill.
Oh, 100%.
But not everyone is wired to want to take on that pressure. And same with being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, 100%.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, and the thing about the integrator and the operations person, that's the same person, but they tend to be a really good manager, but not necessarily a good leader. They're not always a good leader, but they're usually good at managing people. And what I found is that
what's the difference, would you say, between managing people and being a leader?
Yeah, so a manager can just say,
because that might be like the level 1 of leadership is maybe management.
Yeah, I'd say that for sure. Like it's less of a it's more of like, hey, you have these tasks, get them done. I'll hold you accountable to do them. That's like what I see in managers.
Like
leader,
a project manager or
yeah,
something.
project
Okay.
manager. A leader is someone who's really getting into their heart, getting them inspired to the vision to want to over deliver, not just hitting the deadlines, but over delivering on the deadline, seeing like pulling the best out of them rather than just expecting them to do their task.
What about dealing with conflict? Because that's
Yeah.
one of the most
Managers
important
can do
other
that.
parts
Yeah.
of the skill of the next level of leadership
Yeah.
is some people are really good in some of those areas holding account, but when it comes to dealing with, it's still an uncomfortable learned skill, but some really don't. If you put them there, they'll end up, it won't work. It's finding the right person that can take on in a healthy way,
Yeah.
taking on conflict.
100%. I always tell people, and this is in the book too, I say, look, you need an operations / integrator. They may not be a leader per se, but they can manage people. It's way better to, instead of try to train a leader, to hire a leader. That's what I found. It will shortcut the process. If you're hiring somebody who is already a leader, they might be more expensive because they're probably really fucking competent at what they do, but that's going to cut the learning curve so quickly. Now, does that mean they have to be? No. People can, you know this better than anyone.
Well,
people can grow into leadership. It is a skill.
Right.
But naturally, kind of like referring to the disc profile, some people are naturally leaders. I'm one of these people. I'm naturally a leader. I never studied. It's just who I am.
But there's so many skills to continually.
And it's the soft skills. It's the ones that are kind of hard to measure fully, but they're still measurable. It's like, hey, do a smile,
personal
do a thing,
development,
do a thing. Right.
and learn how to deal with. But
Yeah,
but
exactly.
also,
it's like, how do you? It's kind of like you can teach somebody how to deal with conflict, but it's not like a hard skill where it's like edit this photo. It's like it's a very different type of skill.
Right. Well, and there may be someone that's really good at that, but they might not have the creativity of
Exactly.
how to edit. So and also, I agree with everything you said about bringing someone that's skilled if they're willing to totally learn all over again of how it works to match your company's core values. Because I've made the mistake of bringing in someone that was super
Like top
high
talent.
profile. However, I found out the most important thing,
Seniorities, ego.
their core values didn't match with mine.
Yeah, that can be a
Their
thing too.
strengths and their skills were perfect for the position, but their core values didn't match our company. You can't teach core values.
You can't.
You can refine them and work on them, but if that doesn't work out,
Yeah, because it's a reflection of their character.
right? And our core values don't need to be the same as another like go there where you it's a good fit for you and for us.
100%.
Like, but I've made that mistake and learned,
Same.
whoa, they're super skilled, but it's to a fault where they think they have nothing to be taught.
Same. I hired this I hired this integrator. This was 2 years ago. Hired this integrator, really kick ass. Worked with another company who, it was the same exact industry, social media agency. The other business that he worked for was doing like 15, 20 million a year. So way bigger than my company.
Right.
And he was the integrator of that business. So I recruited him and he came in hot, was crushing it.
Yeah.
And then over time, something was off, and I knew something was off. And
Isn't it weird how you can feel that?
You can feel it. Yeah. It's an energy, right?
One, you know, from listening and helping with your team and stuff, I'm going to interrupt no matter what, because I got to get my thought in with that.
I'll remember my thought.
Yeah, thank you. You're making a great point with God. Now I'm with my ADD. I already just forgot what you were saying with them. What were you saying they just did?
Well, so
Damn it,
they came in and they were crushing it, right? I recruited them. Came in crushing it, and then over time I felt something was off. So long story short, what ended up happening was I had a conversation with this person, and they ended up telling me that they can't get behind messages they don't believe in. And I was like, what do you mean? Now, one of the core values of my company is we're here to serve the client, man. It doesn't matter if you agree with their opinion or not. If they are our client, you have to serve them. It doesn't matter what your lens or your viewpoint is. I'm such a stickler on this. And he had a very hard time with the message of one of my clients. He just didn't agree with what was being said. So it was a conflict of his core values against the company's core values. So I had to let him go because he
Right.
wasn't willing to bend, and neither was I, because that's my core value.
Right.
You got to serve the client. I mean, imagine if someone on our team was like,
If
Mark,
that's your
you're
core
great,
value,
but I don't agree with this principle. It's like, what the fuck? That's my
well,
work.
that's what that's what our business literally does. That's
Exactly.
what feeds us. And then when you get to a point where that's where I was jumping in and interrupting you, then I stopped and wrote it down. When you feel something's off, I know I've done it,
You have to explore it.
but I know how many times where we felt it, but we keep letting it
Fester.
without
That's the
confronting
worst.
it.
It's the
Because
worst.
sometimes when you feel something's off, but you don't know what it is, so you're like, I need to talk to them, but I can't put my finger on a specific. What I've learned, and I continue to work with my leader and team members, it's ongoing. When you feel that gut thing, when you've been doing this for a while too, respond sooner rather than later, because
100%.
that gut feeling, when you can tell something's off, that's coming from doing this for a while, and that intuition
sixth
is
sense.
from real
From experience.
memories built
Exactly.
in. Yeah. And so I've learned, even if you don't know, just to have the to be like, man, something just seems a little off. Can we talk about? I'm noticing.
Listen
and
to this.
And it will get to it, because when you let it
100%.
fester, they what happens? That makes gossip. That makes them.
100%.
Then they're tearing down. That's what pisses me off as owner. You're
They're
tearing
tearing
down. It's like you're biting the hand that's feeding
Feeding you. Oh, I love that. I just did a whole video on this.
It's like you're literally I've talked to. I remember meeting with my head director, and we had like a 3-hour meeting about. And I'm like, by the end of it, I'm like, we just wasted 3 hours on this person that is just ripping our company down. They don't want to be coached. Look how much time we're just because we're trying.
Let them go.
Because we're trying to people please because we care. We got to let them go. They're like just taking money away from the company, from everyone, from us. Like, why am I allowing this to happen? And we all do it.
Oh, we all have done
But the
it.
quicker you can understand that it's,
I think
serving your team by weeding out the people that aren't good for the company, that is serving leadership.
Yeah. Sometimes someone might be very skilled, but a poor fit for the company culture, and you have to let them go, because that's even worse than somebody who doesn't have a good skill but is a good team fit.
Yes.
I found that 100. Anybody can train the skill, but to get connected with other people inside of the company and be kind in these things, that goes way further, especially for me.
That unity.
Oh yeah,
That's why
it's so rare. But it's funny you bring that up about those kind of hunches. I say when that happens, you just have to go into the situation, because you might not have facts, you might not have evidence, you just have a feeling.
Yeah.
Which is not rooted in reality per se.
Yeah.
Although
it is.
Although intuitively you know it's real. You may not be able to pinpoint it. This happens to me every day of the week, man.
Especially when you've been doing it for years.
It's a hunch. You just know. You could be sleeping and you know.
It's something, because what I've learned is your brain sees something that it triggers off
a pattern.
A memory of, wait,
a pattern.
We've seen this pattern before.
100%.
And it's telling you,
yeah.
Red flag, red flag.
100%. So listen to this. I had an employee, and they were really, really, really kick ass. I mean, they came in and started doing things for my business that, to be fully honest, I was so oblivious to, like systematizing things, making things really good, like really building it up. And I was so impressed. And because they were kind of seducing me, my guard went down. I started to trust them. Dude, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I just started getting these hunches, man. I was like, something's off. I don't know what it is. I'm asking my team. I'm like, you guys, like, how's your experience with X person?
At first, you don't want it to be true.
You don't want it to be. Oh no,
like
of course, I didn't want it to be true. But I never wanted it to be true.
You get it because things are you're like, ah.
But there's this thing. So I keep getting this hunch.
I keep getting this
hunch. Then I called a good buddy of mine who knew this person in real life outside of my organization. So I was like, let me just run this opinion by them. I trust them. It's confidential. I run it by him. He's like, dude, that would be the biggest mistake you make, letting that person go. And I'm like, okay. So now I'm starting to second guess myself. Then one day I just came to this moment of like, I don't know what's going on, but every cell in my body is telling me this person has to go. So I eventually pretty much like found this is not.
It's usually always right.
It's almost always right. And then I ended up firing them. 3 months later, I found out they stole money from me.
Right. Not surprised. There
was something, man.
You were
I couldn't
right.
pinpoint it, but I was like, I can't not trust this. And I trusted it. And letting them go ended up being one of the best
Thank
things I ever
God.
did. Because it opened room for other better leadership who were not getting my attention because that person was seducing me so much to really rise to the occasion.
Right.
And yeah, it was.
They hold you down.
Yeah,
And
they blind you, man.
they do. And
They're seducers.
That gut intuition is not
is
talked
almost
about.
never wrong.
It's not almost never wrong. And I've also taught this to my team in hiring. I said, that's one other thing as part of a whole hiring process. If everything's going great, but you still feel this weird thing in your gut, like everything seems great with them, but something, I have this weird, I've taught my director, when in doubt and you feel that gut feeling, don't hire them. Because I would rather you not hire them and be wrong than hire them and be right. And 9 times out of 10, when we've done that and hired them, it's been right. So I'm like, we have a 90% over and over again. So that's one other. It doesn't totally, when you're hiring, you're just trying to gather as many facts as you can. And then,
Of course.
but if it's enough of a strong feeling, and I remember like we've seen it, we have a 90-day probationary period, and we'll see something starting to come, and I'll have meetings with our director. And we need people. We have our individuals we serve. We have to have human beings there. We're hiring, and I'm like, I know we're short right now, but I'm having this feeling. I'm seeing this. I said,
I know.
Danielle, I hope for the best, but I'm feeling this in my gut. So let's start preparing. This probably isn't going to work out. And at first, again, 11 years we've been working together. She would be like, Mark, and now she's
My
learned to
directors
be
do
like,
the same thing. They're like, Anton, where's this
now
coming
it's gotten
from?
there,
And I'm
and
like,
she's
"You'll see."
like, she's like, yeah, you're right. We'll start feeling it, and then it always ends up. And I said, I promise. I said, I don't want to be right on this. I don't want to be right because we need them so bad,
Yeah.
and they're doing so good, and we're so busy,
I know,
and it
man.
sucks when they're good in
I
other
know,
areas.
It sucks.
But we're telling everyone listening is this is what it takes to truly be successful in the long term.
100%.
Because you can get those highly skilled and all that, and you may crush your sales more than ever in 1 year. But
If your culture suffering,
your whole the
values are
toxic, it's
being
going to seek it.
compromised,
It's
not
even
worth it.
seducing you,
Oh, 100%.
like you talked about. Like it starts to make you just question everything.
Everything.
And like it makes you think, like, do I even own this company? Like, you know what I mean? And you've put, going back to what we were saying before, when you're able to get to a point to buy something nice, we've invested every cent we have into our companies, all the risks. So it's like, say when you go, say we were gambling or something. I don't even like to gamble.
Everything on it.
Say I was like, dude, I'm putting
all in on black.
I only have $10,000.
Yep.
It's everything right now. I'm putting it all in
right there.
and then I win it, and then you're like, oh man, but Mark, I was with you. I should get, and I'd probably take you out to a nice dinner and get you something. But it's like, dude, I put all the risk
Right.
in. That's why you get the highest reward. That's still after paying the team. It takes years and years and years. Then there's times still people don't get it. You could be doing good, but then have times where you have to pull back, totally reinvest in your company.
100%.
You're rebuilding. Like even Tesla right now, they're pulling out. They're building all these other factories. So you actually lose money again for a while
100%.
to regrow again in the longer term.
100%. And the biggest thing that holds companies back is innovation. And you get innovation by selling or by reinvesting. That's the only way you innovate is by reinvesting. How else do you?
At what point is too much innovation too much? Where people are like, I got this little drawing of the tree trunk here where
Well,
they're like,
This is how I see it. Yeah.
because it could be so easy to chase.
I'll give you a good
every
example.
trend.
100%. So before you really, so there's there's a lot to this, a lot of nuance. I'll break it down. So number
there's
one,
nuance in everything.
a lot of nuance. Here.
Everything we say here, by the way, the opposite applies too.
It's true. So number one is that too much innovation too early can destroy a company. Secondly, if your product's really good, you probably don't have to innovate for a while. That's how I see it. And when I say a while, I'm talking at least till you make it $1 million a year plus.
So you got to like triple down on
one main
or innovate
thing.
on how to get that out to
If it's good. Now,
it's good.
if the product or service is
Right.
not good, that's another equation. Some people say, well, it's just not working. Well, yeah, because it's just not good.
it's not good.
That
Yeah.
happens. So I like Apple as an example. Apple started with just computers.
Right.
Just computers. And Microsoft started with just computers. Microsoft's vision was, I want a computer on every single office in this country and then the world.
Like
That
yeah.
was Microsoft's vision.
Yeah.
Apple's vision was that as well.
And a personal one.
But then it evolved.
It
And
will-
Steve Jobs said, no. I want a computer in everybody's pocket.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Apple became
After
a
he got fired from his own company.
Yes, Apple became a $1 billion company, or I don't know if it was quite $1 billion yet. Apple became very successful with just the computer. But Steve's vision was like, no, we need to be more than this. Then they got into iPods.
Mm-hmm.
Then that became its own $1 billion niche. Then it became iPhones.
Right.
Or actually, no, sorry. It became computers. Then it became music, iTunes. Think about this. Computers to music.
Yeah.
Subscriptions. Then it became iPods. Okay, they're not just going to listen to music. We're going to give them a device to listen to it on. Then it became cell phones.
Which, by the way, he didn't even know it was going... When it all happens like that, like
Yeah.
he continued on the vision with a team.
Yeah. Because the vision...
He
that's
didn't
the
know
thing.
this is going to lead to something that doesn't exist yet, and we're going to be making money off IT.
He had no idea,
It's
but what
because
he
built the tools for it.
Well,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
He had the framework first, and he kept evolving it.
Yeah.
Most companies grow, but they don't evolve. There's a huge difference.
Or they branch out too much. So like
Well, look at Microsoft.
creating a
Microsoft
good
grew.
product like the phone, the iPad, instead of being like, oh, we're not immediately making what we should. Let's branch out now into
No.
virtual reality or
they
a million
made
other things.
literally $1 billion company before branching into all these branches. But then Microsoft on the other side of the field, they're still growing,
Yeah.
but they're not evolving. Huge difference. And this is why Apple's a $4 trillion company and Microsoft is barely known. Not barely known, but the comparison in terms of percentages is literally thousands of percent of difference in growth. And think about this. Apple now has credit cards.
I know they're creating a bank.
They're creating a bank. They have credit cards. They have Apple Pay. These are all new streams of income.
Yeah.
And I believe they're going to make cars and airplanes. I
Oh,
really
yeah.
believe that. I mean, think about it. Now they have AirPods. These are all different industries.
Actually, AirPods.
Now they're getting into virtual reality with the new Apple Pro Plus or whatever.
Yeah.
Vision Plus.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a perfect example of like master one thing, move on to another while managing the business you're going to become. I believe you have to manage two businesses, the businesses you are and the one you're becoming.
And you're so right. And it was years where they started in the garage and stuff with mastering. When they created the personal computer, at first, when it comes to like the sales part, he was getting all upset because at first they didn't even have like a keyboard on it, and they didn't have it. It looked like, I don't know if when we edit this stuff, have guys find like the old clip of what the computer looked like before it was like the PC. And have that jump in. Like eventually, I can't wait till the technology is like just boom, bring that on the screen.
Soon.
But just to widen the thoughts. But you could have something that people don't know they need it, even though they do need it,
100%.
and they're not able to understand what it is. And he was so
100%.
smart. He was like leaving there like pissed off, like, why don't they get it? Why don't they want my pro? And then it took them coming together and realizing, wait, let's put a little cover on it and kind of make this monitor look like a TV.
Yep.
And then they added something like on the keyboard to where it was like attached to where it made it just look a lot simpler, because he was all about, well, you take it off, but the microcircuits underneath it and the way, and they were all like, what the hell is that? But when he's able to just basically dress it up and simplify this very complex thing
Yep.
and show them in the store, look, you type, it comes up on the screen, and it like looked nice because his mind was so into the
Simple. Cool.
into the technology aspect of it. And then it took the other like mindset of like, no, let's do that. Then people started being like, oh, I want that for my store. I get now how it works.
Mm-hmm. Apple is really genius at selling people an identity.
But they weren't at first.
No, not anymore. Not at first. That's what made the transition so massive was when they started to, and that's where John, I think his name's John Scully, the Pepsi CEO, Jobs recruited. And the way he recruited him was genius. He was like, do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life? Or do you want to change the world? That's that pure entrepreneur in Steve Jobs. He's very much an artist, but he has a lot of pure entrepreneur in him. And he recruited people of top talent because he knew he couldn't do it by himself. And he was an artist, man, but he wasn't the best business person. And John Scully really helped evolve the identity of Apple. And it was like, we want to make this cool. We want to make this slick. We want to make this sexy. And they made PC seem like nerds. That's what they did. So people who buy Apple, they will budge on their spending habit,
right?
Because of the identity of what this phone gives them.
Yeah,
or what those AirPods give them.
MacBook, AirPod,
Same,
and they all
it's
sync
like,
up together.
To your computer analogy, it's like Henry Ford said. He said, if I would have asked my customers what they wanted, they would have told me faster horses.
I just heard someone else say that. Maybe
It's so true. It's in my book. It's so true, though.
So they would have totally said that because that was all they knew.
Exactly.
And that got me thinking,
that's the
that
beauty
must
of
be where
innovation.
horsepower came from. I wonder if that's where he started thinking, oh, let me intertwine horsepower into the analogy of my cars. It's as strong as 8 horses. It's back there. You know what I mean? But anyway, it's so true. When people don't, they only know what they know. And
that's what visionaries are so good at. You know, that's why they're visionaries. They tell you something you need before you even know you need it.
And to let all of you know that our visionaries, they suck. They go through a period of sucking at but they just don't give up. They keep figuring out. And that's another part of the innovation is, okay, I do have a good product. What do I need to keep doing to get people to understand?
And how do I increase?
This is a car and not a horse when cars don't exist.
Exactly. So do I have a good product? Answer is yes. You know it by the response of your audience, not based off your opinion. That's a huge thing. Your customers will tell you if your product is good or not. So what those people need once they have a good product is how to increase sales. How do you increase the sales? Well, there's a lot of ways to do that. I have a whole chapter on it in the book, CEO Squared, but you need to find a way to get this thing to more people, and that can come in a variety of forms.
What has been one of the hardest things that you went through to the transition of your whole like man thing? Because you said you got into this with
shifting gears,
being into a spiritual. You were motivated. I don't know if it's the same person, whatever, but you were motivated by a lot of spirituality, which is great. All of it matters, but too much of anything there's no such thing as that stupid perfect balance. But you told me you got to a point where you got so into spirituality and stuff, but it was making you almost like
feminine,
super, super, super feminine.
Yes.
Which I just had a long talk with my wife and her other good friend from Africa about this. And her friend is an entrepreneur, business lady, but she's still like, I want to know if someone breaks into our house that I've got a man that is going to help protect our kids and family. I'm like, 100%. That's what a man is. That's what guys are supposed to do.
Yeah, man. We're protectors and providers.
Yeah.
But so long story short, man, I went through like my whole agency before like I met you. I only worked with spiritual leaders. Like that was it. I wouldn't even get into the coaches and the speakers, and it was just spiritual leaders. Now that had a lot of good in it. It had a lot of beauty in it, a lot of eye-opening things for me. But what I learned pretty quickly on was that a lot of the quote spirituality I was learning was very feminine-based spirituality. It was all about feeling good. It was all about opening your heart. There was really no strength attached to it.
Because everything is yin and yang.
100%.
So it's like meditate and also
Build a
go
fucking
out and take
business and
action.
crush.
Like pray to God, help me, and then God's
Yes.
also like, cool,
Go do
get
it.
off your ass and do it.
Yeah, like
Go
this,
go ahead though. Go ahead.
this would be the difference, like with that analogy.
But did you hit like a bot like but you told me you really went through like a struggle,
Yeah, I went through many. So
like depression, like a bad like I just want to bring people there too. It's
oh,
go ahead.
absolutely. So I built this company, right? It got one when I was making $350,000 a year. I went from the first
At what
year,
age?
This was 20, I think 25, maybe early or late 24.
Okay.
So I was young.
That's good.
Or yeah, I think I was 24 actually. Oh yeah. I was no. I was 23. I made my first million at 25.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So at 23 years old, I made $350,000. The year before that, I made about 35,000. So a huge jump in income, huge.
Right.
But at that 350,000, I was more unfulfilled than ever. And it wasn't because of, it wasn't because I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. It wasn't any of these things. It was because I really didn't, at a very deep level in my heart of hearts, believe in the messages of my clients. And my heart of hearts. In my mind, in my ego, I was working with some of the biggest, most well-known spiritual leaders till this day. But in my heart of hearts, I knew something was missing and I didn't even know what it was. And it was really that masculine component to spirituality. It was learning that, look, just because you don't feel good doesn't mean you throw your hands up. Like you keep going, and that's where discipline comes in. But a lot of these spiritual teachers I had, they gave me a really good look into the feminine aspect of life. Like they taught me how to get into my heart energetically. They taught me how to let go of some limiting beliefs and whatnot. But they didn't really teach me how to sustain and drive my hunger. They didn't teach me the masculine side of like how to be strong, how to protect yourself, how to provide. It was very much like more of a selfish
how to
nature.
set boundary. Yeah, it's almost like it becomes like a pacifist
in
a way where
it's like I'm attracting everything. It all comes to me.
But in a lot of ways, it's like, no, dude, you're just avoiding conflict. Because when people
100%.
are like, oh, I don't ever get into that negative energy, I'm like, okay, I don't want negative energy either. But when someone's stepping on your face, you've got to take their foot off your damn face.
And that's the big thing that I didn't like about the new age spirituality. And there's a lot of things I don't like about it, but there was no principle. There was no father. All the energy was feminine. There was no masculine father. Like Jesus, man, like I love Christianity, but Jesus was a badass.
Yeah. He made a whip.
Dude, he was a badass, man.
When he got pissed, he got pissed.
And I think that's important to know, that every saint can be a sinner as well. And when I say sinner, it's not to do harm, it's to be able to do harm. Just be capable. Jesus was capable of harm. Strong people are capable of destruction. And peaceful people are also capable of destruction, but they're only peaceful if they're capable of destruction. If they're not capable of destruction, they're just weak. Think about it. Fighting makes you strong, but you don't join a martial arts because you want to fight. You join a martial arts because one day you might have to.
And it's against bullies.
Yeah,
that are like to protect her. It's like if Jesus was upset and using it, it was not against the people that were. It was no. It was like, no, this high priest is coming in and belittling everyone and about to stone this lady. This is a murderous,
this is wrong.
A bully.
Yeah,
I'm gonna stand up to them.
Yep.
And that's the difference. Jordan Peterson says it perfect.
He does
when he talks about being meek.
Yeah,
people think one side of spirituality will say you should be meek, which I agree, but they misinterpret meekness and humbleness with, he defines it as meekness is just like you said, you're trained with to use a sword, you've got it, but you're a badass, you could take someone's head off if you need to, but you keep it sheathed and you don't need to take it out.
Exactly.
But you can.
And you may have to.
But you're meek. But you'll never use it to bully people.
No. I think if good men don't stand up against evil, evil always wins.
100%.
That's how I see it.
100%.
And that's why I'm getting louder and louder on my public social media about this, because
And it doesn't mean going out and just picking fights.
that's not what it is at all.
Yeah.
It's actually the opposite. It's
Yeah.
calling out the bullshit.
Yeah.
Because if you don't call out the bullshit, you're just as big as a part of the problem. That's how I see it.
It's so true.
You got to be as innocent as a dove, but as wise as a serpent.
Right.
Serpents are capable of evil, but the dove, in the Bible sense, it's a reflection of the heart.
Yeah.
And the darkness, so to speak, or the serpent, the wisdom, the evilness, or the capable of evilness, protects the dove. Because you can't just be naive, otherwise you'll be taken advantage of.
Right.
And this is exactly what happened.
You got
to
to
me.
merge them
I'm
together.
I'm around all these spiritual people. I think they're such good people, so I'm naive as hell. I'm the innocent dove. And what did that do, dude? I got so taken advantage of, man. Not to play the victim card, but
A lot of them are really passive.
Passive
aggressive
as
is
fuck.
the second
real
word
thing.
is aggressive.
an incredibly
Passive
aggressive.
aggressive is a form of aggression.
It is.
It's just not physical. It's still aggression.
It is. And a lot of those men I found, again,
I'd rather
a
be
lot of
punched
them are
in the face than,
Same.
than like
the mind fuck is worse than the
stabbed in the
physical
back.
beatings, in
Yeah.
my opinion. I've had both, and the mind stuff is way worse.
yeah.
Manipulation, I'm very sensitive to it because I've been very manipulated, and I've seen many people I love who are very kind and have good hearts also be manipulated, and that breaks my heart, man. So that's kind of why I steered away from that industry entirely, kind of developed my own faith in my own connection with God instead of like finding
Right.
it through another man or woman. Like, so I kind of just realized I had to go on my own journey of like discovering what my masculinity is. Also, my girlfriend who I thought I was going to marry cheated on me. And there was a lot of stuff like that happening in my life. People were taking advantage of me, clients trying to sue me for shit I never did. Like, dude, it was insane. And it was all these themes pointing to the same thing. You're not capable. You're not capable. You're not capable of destruction. You're naive, man. And it was just like I kept getting punched in the face until one day I woke up and said, holy shit, I'm naive. Some people aren't good people. And that
Right,
was so hard for me to
that
believe.
fake energy would tell you, well, if this happened to you, that's just the way. That's just
just
the
how it's supposed to be.
universe.
Exactly.
And it's like,
no, you got to do something
like
about
wrong
it.
is wrong.
Exactly.
It's like, no.
If good
this
men
is
don't
happening
stand up
'cause I'm
against
letting it
evil,
happen.
evil triumphs.
Yeah,
That's how
yeah,
it goes, man.
Yeah,
That is a
It's
fact of
so
life.
true.
So yeah, that's why I'm very loud with this stuff more than ever, because I'm seeing it, man. Get into it. The families are being ripped apart because men are being taught. Men are feeling like they're the fucking devil because society is making them feel that way. Not to play the victim card for men, but society is making them so soft, and they're listening to society, and they're taking the wrong formula for their own masculinity. So they're staying these man children where they're
and it makes them
50-year-olds.
depressed.
It makes them depressed. It makes them
'Cause they have no
anxious.
sense of
they
purpose.
have no center, man. They're
Yeah.
like blow with the wind.
Yeah.
And then what's happening? Because of that, because of all the soft, weak men, all the women are like, well, we can't trust these men. So what do? They become more masculine. Then what does that do? It pulls them away from their femininity. What does that do? It makes them not want to be a mom. It makes them want to be a boss bitch and build a business. Nothing wrong with a woman building a business.
Right.
The
If
issue-
you're totally wired that.
If you're wired that way, that's
some
the key.
men may, like my good friend, what his dream literally is to be a stay-at-home dad. He's totally wired. The mom, totally wired, business mind.
Right. So
and
she
their
has a
marriage
more
works
masculine
beautifully.
core, and he's a little bit more
But
feminine.
it wasn't
which is
because
fine.
it wasn't because society told them.
And that's
that.
the key point.
That's the difference.
That's the key
Be
point.
you.
Be you.
I'm
Exactly.
all about you being you.
But you
don't
beyond
let
the programming from
anyone tell
society.
you what you are. Don't let me tell you. Don't let you
No one.
be you. Don't let your spiritual learn things that help you be a better version of you.
1,000%.
But this crap where it's like I always hated anyone. I'm a Christian, and half the church drives me insane because anytime someone tries to put me too much in a box, I'm like, dude, Jesus didn't even go to church, so leave me alone. Like, I'm going to learn and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm
Right.
going to help
Going
people.
to church doesn't make you holy.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of benefits if you find a good church too.
Same.
But
Completely agree.
it's when people try to tell you
Yeah.
how to exactly what, and then when they try to do it to a whole group of society,
It's insane.
it's horrible.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So that's why I've gotten really loud about it. And it's not because I'm saying I'm not advocating for this because I think it's a theory. I'm
Right.
advocating for this because I know it's a fact, because I went through it being a weak man, and how that destroyed my relationships, destroyed my business, destroyed my health, my happiness. So I went down that path. And because I went down that path, now I meet so many other men on that exact path I was on. So I'm realizing this is like an epidemic, man. And it's
Right.
the same end on the women's side as well.
Right.
Because in my coaching business, a lot of women tend to be attracted to it, but the women are also high achievers, so they have a lot of masculine energy developed, and that's
Yeah.
great. Some of them are massively successful, and they love that, but
A lot of them are following what they're being told,
they're
and it's making them miserable.
exactly, they have a poor relationship with masculine energy, so they overcompensate in their own life to gain the energy of the masculine energy,
Yeah.
but they're gaining it in themselves instead of getting it from an outside force, another man. So then they're deeply unfulfilled. Some of these
Yeah.
women, they all tell me the same thing.
Well, it breaks families up. It breaks there's a lady I love to have her on the show. I've seen her on Patrick Bet David before speaking. She's someone that speaks a lot on like the flip side of what we're talking about, but for women.
Yeah, and
Where
it's-
she's like, this whole boss bitch said everyone's supposed to be a bitch. Like, no, you're not. Again, if you're wired that way, cool. Like, do you, but still be a good person. But she's like, no, like your man needs. I'm not saying my wife needs to come and cook and clean and do a lot, but here's what I say.
Usually she'll
you're the
want
king,
to. She's
you're the
in that
king.
exactly.
But the king doesn't mean you're a dictator.
No.
Your wife is a queen.
A king makes harmony.
A king treats his wife like a queen.
Exactly.
That means you respect her like a queen.
100%.
But the queen needs to respect the man as a king.
Exactly.
And it doesn't mean that you come in like a dictator and you're like, because I'm the man, it's blah, blah, blah. But the man is the king if he respects also the women as the queen.
Exactly. It's just a different role. The man and women have
two different job
roles,
descriptions.
and it doesn't. When I say that, people think, "Oh, I'm saying men are better than women." No, not at all. It's
No.
It's
It's
not
not
at all.
even about better
We're
or worse.
equal, just in a different way.
Totally.
Both of our roles are totally necessary for a family unit and for society at large. You
Yeah.
need both. But the problem is the gender roles are flipping. And men who are truly masculine at their core are becoming more feminine, and women who are truly feminine at their core are becoming more masculine. And this creates a ton of problems.
And anxiety and
Mental health.
built up anger.
Dude, every problem in the book falls under this category. You're going to struggle in business. You're going to struggle in intimacy. You're probably going to struggle with your health. You're going to be totally unfulfilled in every single way because you're outside of your core nature. You're pretty much playing a character that's not you. And that's not a good way to live.
How did you get to the point where you're like, because you're making good money to be like, I'm going to give basically fire all these clients. And did you just move and start a whole new company? Or,
No.
Or did you because that's not easy to.
No, it was a really hard decision.
Yeah.
It was really hard.
But thank God.
Yeah, I lost $250,000 in one day.
But had you stayed on that, you wouldn't have been close to the trajectory you're on.
No, not even close, because yeah, I would have just prejudged people that I really believed in and their message, because I was under the naivety of like, I only work with this type of person. Now I love the niche down of like, and I talk about this in my book, how like I niched down to the spiritual leaders, which also separated me, because there's not many people that work with spiritual leaders only.
Right.
So spiritual leaders are very sensitive about marketing. They're very sensitive about marketing. So having a guy and a team understand them as an individual, but also understand the marketing and only work with people like them, really allowed me to build a very niche business. I built the whole business off of referrals.
Right.
Became $1 million company like that. No website. But
You
then
still don't have a website.
still don't have a website.
I remember when we met at
Billy's.
at Billy's house. Yeah, shout out to Billy and Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Um,
Still don't have one.
and you're like, then we met about. I'm like, what do you do for your services? I was telling you like, I'm in the social media thing, but I don't have a website. And I wasn't like, oh, that looks the credibility and the referrals, and then explaining. And that's another thing I've learned. take the time to interview people that you're even hiring to subcontract.
Oh, 100%.
To make sure they're a good fit for you and you for them too.
100%. Yeah,
Like
we had
both
like
ways.
what was it, 3-hour conversation right at this desk.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah. I know.
But yeah, like I hit a point where I was like, I cannot no longer, and I think this comes with age. And I wish, if there was one thing I wish I could change, would be that I had firmer principles I abided by, no matter what, even if it meant money. Because I think there was such a lack of money in my life that when I was younger, I'd bend on my own principles just if it meant making money. And that's not a good way to live, because you're going to lose it, or you're just not going to feel good. And you can make it 100% ethically. Not that I was doing illegal things, but just feel good about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like
and the people you're
following
working
your
with.
purpose.
Yeah. So there was a lot of, so I made this decision. I did fire some clients. I'll share a story of one of them that got fired in this time. So we're having a meeting with the team. By the way, we were crushing it for this client. Like, things were going really well.
And you're young too. That's the tricky.
Very young. And that was part of the tricky thing too. I never revealed my age ever to clients, because the ones I did always used it against me. Like, oh, they'd act like I was some rookie business owner.
Right.
Like, they just
there's so many crappy people in this space.
And there is.
But you worked your butt
I had to get wise, because I realized you can't substitute opinions for facts.
It's truth.
You can't. And a lot of clients, when they get emotional, they like to do that. That's what I found.
Yep.
So what happened was, I'm younger than I am. I was pretty young when this happened. So had this client, very well-known shaman. He's like a huge shaman. And we really helped him, really built him up, doing great. And then one day he gets on a meeting with me and 2 other staff members, who were women, by the way. And he just comes in. He didn't even say hello. He just comes in and he's just going nuts, like totally like berserk. Totally unconscious. I didn't even know what he was saying. And then he was talking about how we're doing such a poor job. We don't understand him. We don't understand his message. Literally 1 week earlier, he was saying the exact opposite.
That's what happens when you don't ever deal with conflict and you let the universe.
Exactly.
You're sitting there, let the universe, and it's like, no, you could have had this conversation 3 months ago and started working on one little thing at a time.
Right, because what's the problem? That's what I was trying to get to. Right. What's the problem? Okay, I hear your opinions.
This is 1,000 problems that you never read my mind about.
Right, exactly. And he may have not said anything because of whatever reason, but also from my end, after that meeting ended, I just kind of closed it out. One of my employees was crying because it was so intense. And I looked back and I was like, let me look at the paper trail. Let me look at his reports. Let me look at the data. Let me look at the facts.
Was there anything that we ever was brought up?
And that was the thing. And this is when I started to realize, holy fuck, this motherfucker's manipulating me.
Right. And totally contradicting everything he teaches.
And I've seen this hundreds of times.
But by the way, quite a little bit. We all screw up.
We're all human.
There's a level. There's times I screw. We will.
Every
not
human
it, but
screws up.
But the difference is when you come back and you're like, say that was me. Mm-hmm. And and then I followed up with you guys, and I'm like, oh my God, you guys.
I'm so sorry.
And really, but not only just saying it, but then followed up with actions to make it better.
So that ended up happening, but not until this happened, which I'm about to share.
Okay.
So right before all of this occurred, I made a 6-figure investment into a mastermind. It was a huge investment at the time, and I was scared as shit to do it. And at this time, this was my biggest client. He was paying me $12,000 a month. And it was just like, I'm weighing my options, and I'm like, okay, he's just making shit up.
What was the mastermind was not a good one?
No. I was talking about the client that was going so sporadic. So this client who was yelling at me and my team for no reason, when I went back to look at the data, he was making things up. Nothing what he said was true. And this really it's
like he's just projecting.
It was kind of a mind fuck. Because I realized I'm getting manipulated, and this has happened a lot of times. This is why I'm kind of very sensitive to it.
So
now.
you kind of looked up to this person in a way from
Yeah.
their teachings and stuff.
Of course. I tend to do that with a lot of my clients. Not anymore. I don't pedestalize anyone anymore. We're all human.
But you do
But
respect.
I respect greatness for sure. And I respect abilities and these things.
Because when I do respect someone that's earned it and they let me down, that does.
Meeting your heroes is always hurts.
Well, no, but when they really are awesome people, that's great.
That's a whole nother
if
thing.
If they are who they say
that's
they are.
only happened to me once in my whole life, but I'll share that story at a different time. But yeah, so I'm weighing my options. I say, look, the facts are this guy is straight up lying. Like he maybe had a bad day, whatever, but like this was such another level of unconsciousness, man. Like it was bizarre. I could see if it was just me, like the owner, man to man, I could take that. But me and two other women who are like, one of them was like probably like 22 and the other one's like 35, and it's like she's crying, dude.
Right.
So I'm looking back at my
room.
I'm looking at the facts and I'm like, okay.
My God.
I'm like,
it's so funny. It's a spiritual teacher.
I know. Well,
it's so contradictory.
I've seen it so many times. So I'm looking at this huge investment I make. I'm looking at this client and I'm like, he's my biggest client paying me $12,000 a month. Like, what do I do? Because losing this $12,000 is huge per month. And I weighed it and I sat on it, and within literally 5 minutes, I was like, I know what to do. I gotta fire this client, man. This is toxic for me and my team. I was more concerned about them. And I was like, what does a leader do? That's
leadership.
I was like, what does a leader do?
This right here is the higher level of leadership that no one ever sees behind the scenes.
Yeah, I had to go big because it was like
a risk for the right reasons.
Exactly. Any conversation I'd have with any other person, they wouldn't understand. They wouldn't really get it. Like, I'm losing $120,000+ a year from this one choice. You got to understand.
At the end of the day, it's on you.
It's on me.
Like, you could even ask me, and I could give you the best advice based on what I know, but still, it's
at the end of the
dream.
day, that's my business bank account. That's
I may think I'm telling you what I know from the wisdom, and it still may be the wrong answer.
Exactly. So I made the decision to fire him, and keep in mind, this same month I invested in that mastermind. So I'm like thinking logically, should I back out of the mastermind? Like, but I'm like, no, like I have to have faith.
Every time before you go to another level,
every time.
I swear, things hit you from this side. It's like, of course I invested in the mastermind strategically, and I had the budget.
Right when the moment,
and at the same time, now I got to fire the guy, and now I don't have the money for it.
Client. Yeah,
so
man.
logically, it would be like, I should try to see if I could talk to him and get this back.
Yeah.
But
I knew
you were going to go to another level, and it's like it tests everything.
Every time. So here's what happens. Fire him. I'm happy, team's happy. Of course, they don't know about the financial situation. Only I know about that.
And that's another part of leadership. You can't, unless like you got your head
they don't get
person that you work like I do now at a level, but you can't open. That's another, like, that's when I tell people, be authentic as a leader. Doesn't mean coming in every day and like, oh my God, I don't know how we're going to get through this.
How are we going to make payroll?
Like, you've got to be the one.
Gotta be bulletproof, man.
You've got to be the one, and it doesn't mean you're not being real and like, guys, we gotta stay tight here on the budget. We're gonna work on this, but you got to come in with a confidence of, but we're gonna get through. And even though in your own head you're going home like in tears at night, because I've had it happen.
Me too.
Like, that's the other part people don't see. Go ahead.
So when this all happened. There's actually another story, but when this all happened, I had to really make that decision. What does a leader do? And then I asked another question. What does a man do? And that's what gave me the firm clarity of like, this is what I have to do. And I did it. And to your point, the state of the leader is the state of the organization.
So true.
It doesn't mean you don't have fear. It just means you keep going anyway.
You don't let it stop.
That's courage.
Yes.
Exactly.
Courage is
so I made that
while
decision.
You're afraid.
Exactly. And then God, universe, whatever you want to say, comes in. And within 3 weeks, I had 2 new clients paying me more than the $12,000.
That
were
awesome.
off the radar. No lead. They weren't like warm leads. These were new clients. One of them I met through a mastermind.
God is orchestrating.
That's God.
It's not like sitting back and being like, it's like,
it's doing the right thing and continuing to act.
Right.
Because one of those clients I met at the mastermind, and I did my thing. I sold her and we talked, and I was like, look, I think I can help you. You're aligned, this and that. And she loved it. And we had a great run. And then the other one was a referral. And it was just like all orchestrated so fast. And when moments like that happen, it just was like the right thing to do is always the right thing to do.
It levels you up.
It does. And sometimes the right thing to do is to fight, man.
Like it levels you down before it levels you up.
Yeah, there's always a dip before the...
It feels like it, yeah. And you don't know
I
if
look at
and
it
when
like a
it's gonna
shifting
come.
of a gear. You know when you shift a
that's a good
gear,
analogy.
there's actually that like 1 second or half a second where the car actually slows down. But then it's like, phew.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
Man.
Yeah, but what you were saying about the state of the leader, that's everything, man. We are a reflection of our organization. If we have fear, doubt, and uncertainty, we are going to unconsciously project that onto our team
Right.
every day of the week. So I really work on my state and my energy very, very hardcore because I know that's going to reflect in every conversation I have with clients or with team.
Yeah.
So I got to be the best I can be and show up in that energy every day.
And when you don't, you just go back and talk to the team
right.
and work on
Come back stronger.
We're all human.
We're all human. I've fallen from grace more times than not. It's not always easy
I
to
think
be a
that's,
leader.
That's authenticity is when you do.
Yeah.
A real leader.
You
This
suck it
is
up.
why people don't respect See, they call them politicians because they're not leaders.
No.
There can be one like Mark, because when they make a mistake, like all of us, if and they're like, oh, they can't admit it, makes them look weak. No, it makes me respect you so much more to come back and be like, Jerome Powell, I've raised the interest rates way the hell too much. I'm not going to raise them another 14 times. We went a little too far, and people will be like, oh no, he can't come and say that. It'll make it look like he's indecisive. And I'm like, dude, if you're basically supposed to be like the president's supposed to be like the CEO of the country, and I don't waste my time on all that crap. But it's like, if you run a business like that off of ego, if it makes me look weak, you got to look at what's best for the
client,
the company,
country,
the client, the country,
America is
the mission,
client. Right?
And if it's you being wrong, who gives a crap?
100%.
If it helps you get the win, that's all that matters.
100%.
Of course, we overdid this. Oh, it's not called I'm dumb. It's called we're re-strategizing to get to that end result.
100%, man. And I think everyone wants to learn like new sales tactics and this thing and that thing. And I always tell people the best sales tactic is number one, to believe in what you're selling. And number two, take best interest into the client. If you operate with that energy, that's so rare in today's world. Everyone's always trying to sell something. But when you can do something in the best interest of the client, it changes the whole game. I'll share another story. This is in my book as well.
You can lose money. I've had times where
you'll lose money temporarily, but you'll make more in the long run every day of the week.
Purposely lost because of things we did wrong or something.
Me too.
But I'm like, oh man. And all right, we're going to take that from you. You don't have to. We're going to over deliver on that.
Yep.
I have high-end coaching services. I have stuff in when people pay, I'm going to make sure they get
over deliver.
And it may be like we had 3 contracted hours and I came back. I'm like, I didn't know that one part. I'll come back and make sure I'll do it with speaking events, high-end. I'll come back, but there's times I'll lose money on things to make sure that I, out of pride, over deliver the services. And then that makes you make more money in the long run.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
I'll share this sales hack that I have in the book that changed my whole business. So I used to only sell $10,000 a month contracts. That was it. It's $10K. That's it. No other option. Then I started meeting people who were spiritual. This is early in the business. I started meeting people who were spiritual leaders, but they didn't have like much of an audience. They were new. And I was selling them this 10K package. And in the back of my mind, I always thought like, this isn't really right, because before they even start to see any results, they're going to have to spend $100,000. You know what I mean? Right. And I was just like, something in me just didn't feel right about that. So I developed this thing, and I just did it one day out of pure like taking interest into the client. Essentially, I looked at, I sat down with my team. And I said, look, what can we charge and still like make it make sense for the business?
Right.
And we came up with a number. I think it was like 5,500 or 6K or something. It was like, if we do 6K, the client still gets everything except for it's this and this and this is a little different. The 10K will include this. So I go back to this client, say, look, I'm charging you 10K, but that's actually overcharging you. And you know it, and I know it. Before I got to this point, a lot of clients would come in, they'd stay for 10K, they'd stay for 2 months, 3 months, and then leave. So I was like, something's got to change.
Yeah.
So this is what I started doing, and my conversion rate went through the roof. And it was just because I was genuine. I said, look, let's just say hypothetical scenario. We have Sally. Sally has a new business. She's just starting. She works with clients one-on-one, but she's not very big. Maybe she has 500 followers on Instagram.
Right.
I'd say, look, Sally, I have 2 options. I have a $10,000 option, but I'm going to tell you right now, this isn't for you.
Well, first of all, why do you need you? And that's good principles. Like, you could get the money, but it's like, wait, are you at the level yet where you need to be investing that into growing
and
your
even
thing?
If she could,
or should you invest in your business for
and
some
even
years
if she
and
can
then come back
afford
to
it?
me?
I've had clients. Most of my clients are very successful, so it's like a lot of them have other businesses and things like that. So it's like she could afford the 10K, no problem. But I was like, you know what, Sally, you could do this 10K, but I actually am just going to take that off the table. But this 5K one or 6K or whatever it was, I was like, you need to do that.
That's
because
cool.
this is going to serve you at the highest level, and this is going to work. And what happens 90% of the time is they'll start at that 6K, will do a good job, and they'll upgrade to the 10.
Right.
And that's how it should be. And
Yeah.
nobody does this. You're taking the no off the table for them, because usually it's like, do the 6 or the 10 or no. So it's like you're
Right.
giving them all these options. But what I started to realize was by taking that 10 off, by working in the best interest of them, they just said yes. There was
Right.
no room for no. You were saying the no for them. No, you're not going to do the 10.
Yeah.
Do the 6. And they
Yeah.
go, okay. And it was like my conversion went through the roof. I was like, God, it's so funny. Every sales tactic in the world just comes back to believing in what you sell and being genuine.
So true.
That's what it all comes down to.
It really does. And then also being strategic on going to the people that you're serving, because someone that's just starting off and their budget's like $200 a month or something,
Right.
couldn't afford. It's like, that's when you need to be going in and just grinding and learning it totally on your own.
Right.
You know, and places will sometimes try to like totally upsell someone like that and make them go like bankrupt when.
That's so wrong on every level. I do not believe in that.
But one question I did have was, you said the one team member you had that was like, I don't believe in what the clients do.
Yeah.
But your core values are, we're going to super serve our clients no matter what. And I also know still that doesn't mean you're going to take on a client that you think is doing some horrible message. That's it doesn't mean they have to be like the same exact spiritual.
They don't have to have my same
overall,
spiritual beliefs or
somewhat
political
core
beliefs.
values or something. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, right? Because if they were on there totally doing this message that's like
I wouldn't get
so
behind that
contradictory
either.
to your beliefs,
No.
then you wouldn't be able to like.
I couldn't personally do that.
Yeah.
But I have to agree for the most part. That's kind of my own principle. I just got to agree for the most part.
Right.
And if there's things that are really like, yikes, those people don't even ever come into my radar. I've never had a conversation with somebody where I was like, I disagree with what they're saying on every level. That's just, I don't really attract those types of people.
Yeah, because when you get to different levels, you notice there's so much similarities in mindsets, even though we're different. There's so many similarities.
Yeah, also because my entire business is referral.
Right.
So the people I work with, I know are cool. So the people they refer me are likely going to be like them.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a hard thing because, and you know, when I fired him, he knew. He kind of fired himself.
That's what I always say.
Yeah,
Even
like
with
he kind of knew. He knew. He was
point.
just like, yeah, you know, dude, I'm totally half-assing. He admitted it. I mean, that was cool.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel good when you're, you know, paying a lot of money for someone who's supposed to be a really solid integrator.
Did he try to ask you to do things back or whatever?
No.
Okay, so that made you just be able to cut out, and then you started. And I tell people that too, to invest in stuff.
Yeah.
You got to take the risk to invest in stuff that hurts to level you up at times too.
100%.
Like,
that's how you
people
grow.
have hired me for services, and it's taken but before had me do that for them. I'm like, I'm telling you, I did this when I was where you were. I invested what I at that time. I'm not trying to sell you some crap I don't know. Had I not done that, it wouldn't have taken me to a whole other level too.
100%.
And it's like the more knowledge and stuff people have, the busier they are. Their fees are going to be higher because they don't necessarily need to even do that.
Right. They're selling on value. Like that's a huge thing. You don't sell on time. You don't sell on price. You sell on value. Like what is this worth? You know, that's why when I charge people $10,000 or $15,000 a month packages, I don't ever like someone was like, oh my gosh, how can you sleep at night? I'm like, dude, do you know how much money they make as a byproduct of investing $100,000 a year, 120, 150 grand a year?
What's been one of your biggest success stories? Obviously, without naming the person's name, I know you can't.
I have an alias for them. Yeah.
Where they were and where they got to.
Yeah. So his name was Maxwell.
Oh, you're allowed to say the name?
It's not his real name.
Oh, okay.
I just call him this in the book as well.
Oh.
He had 30,000 followers on Instagram, about 50,000 on Facebook, and we in 3.5 years we grew him to 1.7 million on Instagram and 800-ish thousand on Facebook. In terms of the financial benefits,
what was his? Can you mention the the proximity of the products or whatever that was benefiting?
It was like spiritual teachings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did the person sell like books or something or coaching?
Yeah, he had books, he had coaching, he had live events, things like that. So he brought me in, man, and he was very skeptical because they had never paid money like this for marketing in their whole life. I mean, this was brand new for them.
It is for a lot of people. There's a lot of you and I talked about this. I've worked with some crappy ones.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So long story short, he came in, and a lot of times when I work with clients, this is kind of what started to happen as the business grew. I could see opportunities that they were leaving on the table. And although I wasn't a business consultant, it was in my nature to want to like help them make more money.
Right.
So I sat my client down.
We all elevate together.
Exactly. I was like, look, man, you have a lot of people that want to experience your work, but they can't afford to go to a 7-day or 10-day or like he had these really long retreats. I was like, they can't afford that. And he was like, well, I don't want to do a webinar. And I was like, I'm not saying do a webinar, but maybe do like a live stream. Like, why don't we live stream a couple hours from like one of your events, or maybe we'll do something on the weekend or try something. And he fought me tooth and nail, man. He's like, I don't want to do it. They got to come. I'm like, look, man, they'll come later. Serve them now with a piece. So we did this live stream, $49.
Do I know who this person is?
No, you don't. We did this live stream. It was $49. And essentially, long story short, the first one, there was 18,000 people that joined. $49 a pop.
That's
at the end of it. We sold.
People don't comprehend how much work it takes.
No, that took
people.
Dude, that was like
we get so used
campaign.
Dude, we get so used to that's another thing where people misinterpret. We get so used to these high numbers of social media that to where all of a sudden like 18,000 seems like it's small.
Right.
And it's like, dude, try going to a speaking event. The biggest one I ever did was 4,000 people. When you're standing there in person, 4,000 people is so. I did one with 500 people in a small room. It's a lot. When you're looking at that on social media, 500 is not small either.
No.
And people would think, oh, only 500 people. Like if you're sitting in a room speaking, because we're so like used to these huge numbers, thinking if it's not a million, it's not. 18,000 is a lot of people.
Stadium, man.
It's a big stadium.
Yeah. So obviously after a result like that, he was mind blown. And not only was it the 18K that joined, at the end of that, we sold a $9 a month community.
Oh, wow.
So it was a subscription after they spent the 49, they had an option to be a part of, they get some teaching once a month and some private emails and whatnot for $9. So now you're getting that consistent revenue. But then next quarter, we did another one, 27,000 people, $49. And then we did one final one, 32,000. I think it was 32 or 38,000 people.
That's amazing.
And this is all from, that was a non-existent part of the business before my suggestion. And it was just like, he didn't have to do any extra work. All we had to do was set up the live stream. But now here's what
but
he
it
did
was
have to do.
still 8 months of work to get there, though.
Well, he didn't do any extra work other than his capital. He had to invest in, this was not a cheap contract. And he had to invest in me. He had to invest in funnels, which was another service my company offered at that time. He had to invest in email marketing, which was something he didn't have, good copywriters. And then, there was a lot that went into that one project, but, he spent, I think I did the numbers for my book. He spent a little over $500,000 with me in the course of our engagement, but he made 10 million plus.
Right.
Yeah.
But as he's investing that, it's taking that risk of...
And it was a risk.
Yeah.
It was absolutely a risk, and it paid off. And, we don't always have winners like that, but it just goes to show what's possible when you have a good product and you're getting it out there and you're doubling down and you know who you're talking to. And once, that's what I was saying about the innovation piece. He was so gung-ho on doing it a certain way, which worked. His business did millions at this time, but there was a way smarter way that just needed some innovation that would allow him to serve in a whole new way. And that allowed him to tap into a much younger audience, which was something he never had before working with me.
Man, it's bringing in to like see those gaps.
And I'm really good at that because of my marketing hat.
Yeah,
I'm really good at it. It comes so second nature to me, which is why I coach people with their business. Like yesterday, I can share this client with you, Yogi Brian. He's in my business kind of mastermind, so I coach him on his business. And this guy's knows social media super well, man. I mean, he's got 250 plus or 227, I think, 1,000 followers on Instagram. I didn't help him build his social media brand. He did that on his own. I help him with his business. Very different. But his business
two different things, right?
Two different
Building
things.
it and then having money coming in.
Yep. But now they're intersecting where I'm teaching him how to run a business. So now he's actually making good money and learning how to sustain it and use his social media as a way to fuel his business instead of just entertainment. So we have a meeting once a month, and we were looking over his numbers, and I was just like, man, like, what's going on here, dude? There's it's just not the same as it was. And after our last meeting, I really inspired him to start selling more on his social, but now he was overselling. So all his engagement was dropping. And I was like, Brian, bro.
It's that constant yin and yang.
It is. And I was like, Brian, bro, let's do this. Let's go back to how things were just for a couple weeks before you met me. And he was like, okay, I can do that. And what I was referring to is the type of content he was putting out. No selling, just value. Yesterday, he had a TikTok go 600,000 views, and he hasn't had one in like 6 months.
That's awesome.
One little strategic change. Guess how much money that made him? Thousands of dollars. One post. And it took him 5 minutes to make. But that's the power of the right strategy.
And it's like, it's not always, it's never one.
No.
It's always ongoing.
It's ongoing.
It's like,
it's innovation.
It's ongoing. Do this, then, okay, do this where you are selling.
Exactly.
But then don't do, and trust me, like I work with you. I'm still constantly learning. I had stuff on Facebook that worked hugely to sell my books when it first came out.
Oh, yeah.
The story of you that then like dropped off a cliff when I worked. It didn't drop off a cliff, but everything just changed when I worked with another company that put all this crap when I was doing it myself. But then I didn't have time.
Right, you're busy running a business.
But it's a grind.
It is,
People think that, it's just like when you're doing it strategically and posting and making content
it's
stuff.
It's a lot, dude.
It's way more work than people even have a clue.
Well, it's hilarious.
Just like everything.
It's hilarious because I own a damn social media company. I have all the resources to make an epic brand.
I was just going to ask you about
my own brand.
What's your experience been like opening your own? Because that's what you do.
Yeah. It's been good, but it's not easy, man. I've been doing like 3-4 podcasts a week, and it's like, whoa, this is a lot of output. I like it.
It's
enjoy
work.
it. It's work. Dude.
I have my friend.
I remember when I used to not get on podcasts. I was like, I can't wait for the day to be on all these podcasts. Now it's here, and I'm like, I'm so grateful for that. But it's like, whoa, don't get this confused, buddy.
It's
like,
work.
This
it's
takes
money.
energy,
it's
man.
time.
Yeah,
it's talking.
Dude.
then it's
because it's not
the
just an
post
hour,
video,
right?
Then it's up.
It's like you see the podcast 1 hour, but there's a 30-minute conversation before, 30-minute conversation after. I'm like
Right.
looking at my watch, like, yo, I gotta go.
right. Then there's a post production.
Yeah, man.
Getting it ready, posting it up, making
Yeah.
sure it's and then
it's-
doing it ongoing too.
And it's a big investment. You know, I am a client of my own business.
Right.
You know, my team treats me as a client. So it's like I invest in my own, I'm a product of my own company. I think that's so important.
Does
you
that
know?
feel weird when you went to the point of, okay, we're doing all the content for other people. Now I'm going to push myself out there. It's
Yeah.
not my company. Now I'm pushing Anton as a pay. And you weren't just
Well, I
doing it like
never
for
pushed
ego.
my company. My
Oh.
company was never a public facing thing I talked about.
Right.
Ever, because it's so, I can't really share a lot of my clients because of the intricacy of the industry and like NDAs and stuff. So I was like, essentially I was like, who the hell is going to believe me? But then after 7 years, I was
But
like,
I mean, like
okay.
with your team,
Yeah.
when you're like, do you ever find yourself thinking, oh, if I'm saying this or that, and then they're going to be editing it
Oh, not at all.
in the back of your head, like, man, what if they think this the wrong way?
No,
Or-
not at all.
So it doesn't block you from just being,
No, not at all.
and sometimes people that follow me and stuff, they'll think that I'm talking about them when I'm totally not even thinking about them.
Oh, I know. That's normal
and
for
it can happen,
humans.
and they'll be like, man, Mark, was that about my? And I'm like,
confirmation bias.
no, but you know, like I was just
If the
talking about,
shoe fits,
like,
wear it.
it may apply, but like I was just talking about some stuff I'm facing. But yeah,
No.
because I'm like, I'm not passive aggressive. If I had a thing, I would just talk
if
to you
I had
about
an
it.
issue, we'd have it out. Yeah, I think
That would be hilarious if every video that you started making was like passive aggressive things to your team. Like,
this is about.
say I have a team member named Veronica who may or may not be editing this video and
yeah,
keeps
that's
showing up late
savage.
to meetings.
Yeah, I mean, my content isn't. So the one area I saw this affect my team a little bit, not everybody on my team, but some of my team, was when I started. This actually affected some of my clients as well, which is another really interesting conversation.
Because
When I started sharing about money, when I started to like, a lot of people didn't know the business did 7 figures, like, and that rubbed some people the wrong way because they felt like they weren't getting the enough pay based off what the business was doing. So I have had that happen.
people, how do we get them to comprehend your business can be making $1 billion,
And
but you could
not
have
be profitable.
999 million in expenses,
Yeah, I mean,
or you could have 2 billion.
I was telling
Do
my
you get what
brother
I mean?
James. I was telling my brother James 2 days ago about
but
my
like we say
overhead
that for
from
like
last
some of the
year.
credibility to show I run a multi-mil
Right.
because it's true, but then
You can do
There's
5 million a year in business and have 450 million in payroll. Like, it's very, 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 very.
300,000
Or
in
not
ta- yeah.
450 million. What did I say?
Yeah, yeah.
4.5 million, I should say. But yeah, and you're making $500,000. Like, people don't understand. Like, just because someone says that they have a million, like when I say I'm a 7-figure CEO, I will say publicly, I have not taken home 7 figures in income. I'm not there yet, but
Yeah.
I'm well on my way.
Right.
You know, but
right.
my business does do 7 figures.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So people hear that and they equate it to, oh, Anton in his bank account has $1 million. Like, no, that's not
And you
what
will.
I'm saying. Yes, of course.
But you have to, it takes you spend, and
Right.
then you get there.
And I don't
but it's
like cash anyways. So I
It's
like
good to have
assets.
it built up. Yeah.
It is.
It's good when you need it liquid though, to
Yeah.
keep some.
Yes.
But
100%.
anyway, so go ahead. So you were talking about, and I know, and this will be good for us to, as we're getting closer, but like talking about that, I like the vulnerability of you sharing.
Yeah. You know, I
because-
think I struggle less with the business stuff actually.
But,
Because
like, what
it's
about
not
the feedback
controversial.
from the clients, like what were you
Yeah,
getting?
so that has been sticky waters, and it's still something I deal with almost on a daily basis. I actually lost a speaking gig about 3 weeks ago for 2,000 people because of some of the masculine, feminine stuff I've been sharing on my social media.
It isn't. Oh, that's my wife, by the way. I'll call you back, honey. Isn't that? And I'm challenging myself on this too.
Yeah, I lost the I don't do speaking gigs.
Isn't this another part about going to the next level where you've got to
100%.
decide?
It goes back to the firing the client thing. Am I gonna bend on my principles for the pleasing of some fucking person who probably doesn't give a shit about me?
Right.
You know what I mean?
And not
like
be.
I could have been like, oh, let me go delete.
Like,
Because
I
that
get
same
it if
day
they're
I got the
like-
gig, I put out such a savage piece of content. But I was like,
And if
this
that-
is in the
if
pipeline.
that
I'm not
deters
changing
them
this
that much.
Right? Screw them. I don't want to be a dick, but I gotta
I've
go to
struggled
bed
with that too. Yeah.
I gotta go to bed at night with me.
Right.
And I like Marcus Aurelius a lot because he was so principled. He had the whole world at his fingertips, yet he always did what was the right thing to do, not what pleased his ego. And I was like, if a man doesn't speak up against evil, evil triumphs. And I see this whole masculine feminine thing as evil. And if I'm not talking about it, man, and I understand the science behind it, I understand the psychology behind it, and I understand the effects of it because of my life and the byproduct of many men I work with and women, then what kind of a man am I? So I said, screw it. And that has affected my business. That has affected both my businesses, my coaching business and my social media agency. I had a client in the pipeline a couple weeks ago. You know, guy lives in LA, cool guy. I actually really, 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 really liked him. And we agreed on a lot of stuff besides a couple big points where he kind of believes that men can also be women, and I just don't believe that.
Right, but
So
you don't have to hate each other.
We don't have to hate each other. So he called me out on it. He actually called me out on it. He goes, look, man, I don't believe with what you believe. And I was like, that's okay. Now, by the way, I didn't know he believed that because he doesn't talk about this in his content, but he's from LA and these things.
Right.
And again, I don't give a shit. Like,
Yeah,
if you have a good
don't
message,
make me believe
Right.
what you.
right. It doesn't matter to me. If it's like, if that's not in the content and like, he's like a neuroscientist.
Like, if you have a good heart,
right.
like,
So long story short, he decided not to move forward with me because he didn't feel confidence in me and my team to share the proper perspective on his work because of our more conservative based beliefs. And I just said, look, man, cool.
now,
Do
is there
you.
a moment where you go back and have some doubt of, like, just being honest? Like, does it trickle in your head a little bit? Like, oh man, maybe I should hold back on this a little bit, or I'm not saying you take
the masculine
action on
and
it.
feminine stuff a little bit at times. Like the post I did today, I talked about how being a boss bitch is not about building a business, but rather being a mother. It's like, that's what I believe a boss bitch is. That's what a boss bitch
which
should be.
makes you a badass. Yeah.
That makes you a total badass.
Right.
That's the hardest job in the world and one of the most important jobs in the world. And yet, you know, when I put that out there, I sometimes say, like, that's a 30-second clip from a 2.5-hour podcast. Like,
dude, people could pull so much crap from
when
my
I first
stuff
started posting this, it was
without
more
the
of
full
that lens.
content of it.
Now
yeah.
I kind of get excited to see people get pissed off because I laugh because I say, look, you're just denying reality, man. I know this is my truth and people aren't going to like it, and that's okay. Does it sometimes hurt? Do I sometimes read comments and be like, damn, like, that was harsh?
Or do you, like, when you lose an
happens.
event, and then also
The event
you
one?
don't have to share it. It's like what you're saying is, if you strongly believe this is like affecting my mission in the world,
Yeah.
and this is my thing to take a stance, because some things I don't feel like people, some celebrities and stuff, when they get to a level, then they go and they overly share everything. It's like, dude, somewhat stay in your lane unless you really believe in this so strongly.
I completely
You don't have to
agree.
share
You don't gotta-
every political opinion, every, you know, and
But
I'm
if-
not saying not to.
No, but like, if you look at a lot of these people who are sharing polarizing messages, so many, I read the comments, man. Like, I'll read hundreds of comments. I have like this weird OCD where I want to really understand the psychology of the viewer, like on the other end, because I'm so like disconnected. Like, I put out a lot of content, but
I saw you on Threads, brand new, and your first post, I started laughing my ass off.
I actually ended up
your first
deleting
post was like, by the way, there's only two sexes. And I think I replied,
Because-
I'm like, man, you're coming right out of the gate.
Because, dude, Zucks is out here, man, trying to censor what should be free speech, and Twitter, on the other hand, is free speech and getting demonized. It's ridiculous. But
See,
but back
I
to
look
my
at
thing.
it as anything that will help spread my message, I'll use. But if
Right.
they start doing that crap, then I'll just keep moving to.
Yeah.
But I won't be
Well,
like,
they're
I won't
they're
do
gonna
this
do it
because
for sure. Yeah,
they will.
I think that's
and
a
they
weak
won't.
mentality if somebody says, "Oh, I'm just gonna not use this platform
If
because
it's helping get your message,
if it's getting your message out." That's the big thing. Like I think
But
you
go
not
ahead.
downloading the app isn't gonna necessarily be a protest per se, unless everybody gets on the board. Which just if you're looking at the subjective reality, that's not gonna happen.
Right.
It's not gonna happen.
You don't even have to
I
read
think
the
what
crap.
what you
just
could
post
say
on there and then get off of it.
yeah, yeah. So back to the
Anyway.
comments. So I read hundreds of comments. Like it's actually this really weird thing I have. And it's because I really want to understand the receiving end. Like what are these people thinking? And so many times on these polarizing based viewpoints of these pieces of content that go super viral, there's so many men in the comment that say things like, I wish I could say that. Oh, I could never say that, or I'd be
Right.
fired, or this or that. And I respond to all of them. I say, no, you need to say something. You need to say something. You need to get loud about this. And again, it goes back to good men saying nothing, evil triumphs, evil wins. So it's like
Right.
there is a line in the sand of like, yes, stay in your lane, but at the same time, if
And
your
I don't mean
lane,
totally stay in your lane.
well, it depends
Like,
on your industry.
Go out on what your beliefs are. Like
If you're a coach and you help men and women better their lives, and you're not talking about like from a psychological standpoint, and you're not talking about the dangers of the gender conversation in our society today,
Right.
you're part of like that's in that lane.
right.
So that's why I feel a responsibility because I work with men. I coach men.
Right.
I coach women.
Right.
If I'm not sharing content on this, dude, I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it takes courage.
it takes a lot of courage.
Does it put you help you empathize a little more too with some of your clients to realize sometimes, oh crap, like some of the stuff when they're having to push out of their comfort zone too. People think it's always so easy, but
No,
it's not.
It's really not.
And you're not reinventing. And there's times where I held back where I wish that I wouldn't have. And I've just gotten
Same.
more and more into where I wait during COVID, everything I said was going to happen happened. And my wife and I fought about it forever. And she finally was like, Mark, you said this was going to happen. You said wars were going to start happening. You said, and I fought, and I was like, I only wish I'm like, never again will I not in my heart when something I know is so wrong. But when it came to my company, I spoke highly and I spoke to the governor.
Beautiful.
And I got to a point where people got mad at me about it. And I'm in the field with people with disabilities. And I'm like, you're not going to close my fucking company down.
I love
like,
that.
You'll show up. I'm like, I'll be sitting here with guns. And I'm not, we're not doing, because our
I love
clients
that.
were
They needed you.
getting abused.
I'm sure
And
they
it was
were.
and I'm like, my job is to protect them and my team and keep my team on payroll. You're not shutting us. This
That's a
is
leader,
not
man.
dangerous enough
That's what
to
a
bring
leader
everything
does.
else down.
Right.
We're the only place that stayed open except for like 2 weeks.
Wow.
And because I was watching the worst things happen. The clients were getting abused. They had it was so much worse. And I'm like, I cannot in good conscience sit here.
Good
I'm
for
like,
you,
well, I'm
man.
not doing this.
I love that.
And yeah,
That's good shit.
I just didn't openly post it on social media.
And you don't have to
stuff.
because you're in the field making
But
shit
now
happen.
I can tell. Yeah.
Right. And that's the
Yeah.
difference though. So many men, they would do nothing. Like you're actually doing something. So many
Yeah.
guys just be like, oh, okay, I'll stay home and lock myself in my house for 7 months or however long it was.
Right. While your company goes under and people are going to crazy.
That's why I moved out of LA, man. I
Dude,
literally
that's
moved
what
for that
pushed-
reason. That's
Right.
why I'm in this state. I was like, I can't take this. This is ridiculous. I'm not gonna give taxes to
It's
this
gotten
freaking
worse,
country,
too.
to the state. It's getting worse, man. It's
know.
bad. So I was like,
born
I'm
there.
out of here. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Orange County, Newport
Oh.
Beach.
Oh, nice area.
I used to think I
Way
was
better
gonna
than
go
LA.
back.
Well,
Yeah, dude,
greater LA.
FLA. Yeah. It's a shame though, because the weather and stuff is
Yeah,
beautiful.
LA's if LA was like Florida policies, it'd be the greatest place in the world.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah.
Hands down. Such cool people over there.
I like how the water's warm here though.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Maybe I'm saying that from an old lens.
But the
um,
wave, like the big waves and stuff.
just like
and
I love
it's
how
just
you can
different
have
vibes.
mountains and then the beach and
It's
then
true, the
drive up north, you
landscape.
could get some snow. you know.
Yeah.
I thought that was really
It's
cool.
a beautiful state. San
really
Diego,
is,
I love.
yeah.
It's like 72 degrees year round.
Yeah, yeah. California's awesome, man. But
But
yeah,
it sucks though.
it does. It does.
It's
But
it's awesome, but it sucks.
yeah, I
'Cause
think it'll change in time. Probably won't be
it
for
will.
another decade or two. But I think conversations like this and people standing up more and more are going to, because what's going to happen is people are going to just start protesting with their money.
They're gonna go bank. Here's what's gonna happen. The state's gonna literally go.
They're going to go
bankrupt.
Exactly. That's what I was saying.
Because business pays taxes to fund all this nonsense that
Exactly.
they're doing.
And all the entrepreneurs are leaving to come to Texas and Florida.
Well, they're letting people break in, and
Well,
they're
yeah,
and
they
they're
ha- they
giving
have this
they're
new
giving
thing-
robbers rights of
Yeah,
you can't
$2,000 or
discriminate
less
on them for
$2,000
breaking in.
$2,000 or less of stolen items is just a misdemeanor.
Dude,
It's
it's the
ridiculous,
worst
man.
example of people of the opposite of leadership of
Yeah. Well, that's why it
people
won't thrive.
pleasing.
That's why it won't
it
thrive.
won't and then you're right, then it will rebuild.
Yeah.
But it's gonna take
It's gonna take some
collapsing.
time.
And
Yeah.
it is collapsing.
Oh, it absolutely
Because
is.
so many business owners I know that used to be like, California was like, I'll never move to Florida. This thing like
Yeah, I know.
Florida, California,
I
no
know.
way, dude.
I was that
half
guy.
the people in my neighborhood are from California,
I
and they're
know.
like, I'll never, and they live there like their whole lives.
I loved LA, man. I just couldn't put up with the nonsense.
It's got San Francisco.
They don't realize. They'll realize though.
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, a state is a business. They have to make
100%.
money.
when you're bankrupt, you can't not fund anything.
Yeah.
You can't fund the schools. You can't.
It's gonna get interesting. That's for sure.
You try to people please everyone, and then we hate business, we hate capitalism. Okay, but
Me
the
and my
business
brother were
funds
just talking
jobs
about
and
this.
taxes and like
It's crazy, man.
how
And
do you
over
think-
there, the American flag has become a sign of politics. It's like it's the American
dude.
flag.
Do you know what, Anton? When 4th of July came, I think it was like a year or two ago in the middle of all the I remember I was getting ready to post a regular like Happy 4th, everyone, and then then someone's thread came up of the real meaning of 4th of July.
Oh god.
And I'm just
Some
like,
patriarchy
then I started,
garbage.
then for a moment, I'm like, oh, should I not put, and then I'm like,
Right, it makes you second guess.
yeah. And then I'm realizing like,
Screw you, man. This is
maybe
my
that's right.
country.
Maybe you can find, but
It's my
I'm
country,
doing this
man.
because I just love the core values of
America
freedom
and
and happiness.
freedom.
And I love the world.
Same.
But right now, my wife's country, Sierra Leone, the president lost and isn't leaving. When we left the country, we had to get out of there fast because they're like facing the midst of a civil war if something doesn't happen.
Oh dang.
And at least here, every 4 years, there's a re-election.
Yep.
I know last time there was a mild, almost like uprising in the White House, but we get a new one. It's like everyone loves to hate on America. My dad has a saying. He's like, America is the worst country except every other one. Meaning
It's a good country, man.
the America, of
Not
course, it's
perfect.
not perfect. Nothing's
Not even
perfect.
close.
However, the core values that America was built on, not slavery, everyone agrees that's wrong.
Of course.
But the real core values, the mission statement of like the right for everyone to the pursuit of happiness, all men are created equal. If we continue to push to stick to that's what Martin Luther King did instead of dividing, how he unified people, because he didn't come up there and be like, I hate America, because he knew that would just push everyone away. He was like, I actually love the core values of America.
He stood on principle.
But you're not living up to them. So what I'm asking you to do in this beautiful core values that you've created, that all men are created equal, I want you to live up to those core values of what this beautiful country is supposed to be. And I love that about this country, but I want to hold you accountable to living up to it rather than being, let's just burn the flag, let's tear it down, because that just divides everyone more and more.
100%.
And division has been the worst. But in real life, like you said, the comments, most real people,
They're scared to speak up, man. They're scared to say no. They're scared to lose their job. They're scared to use their
so
voice.
ridiculous.
It's sad. This is why I think entrepreneurship is so important. Entrepreneurship
It's
is about
leadership.
sovereignty, man. It's about freedom.
Yeah, it really is the next. It's weird how entrepreneurs and I get it, has become almost like the new Hollywood celebrities in a way.
Well, yeah,
And that's how we've got to
'cause they're
realize
way
where
more-
much is given, much is required.
They're way more legit than Hollywood celebrities.
And if you have a platform to be able to use it to a point where you're not just sharing, I mean, if you don't want to, but if you really have something that you strongly is based on your leadership,
yeah,
then it's like there is a point in time. Look, I believe in God, but I don't be like, you have to be a Christian to work for me. That would be
Right.
stupid.
right.
But people see by the way I act and what I do, if they ask, then I'm like, oh, that's because of God. I've been hired for speaking events where they bought my book, Destroy You. I talk of God, and they're like, we can't talk about God in the schools. And I wasn't like, oh, I won't do the event. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I just won't use the word God because God's still bringing me here, and the message I'm sharing is helping people.
Yeah.
And after the event, people come up and I'll speak and I'll be like, whether it's the universe or God, whatever you believe in. And I don't look at that as like I'm bending on my principles. I'm
neither.
like, I'm just being real.
And you're
It would be
playing.
stupid to only speak to people that only believed exactly what I believe, because how would I be helping other people?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's a saying, you got to play the game to beat the game. Once you beat the game, you can change the rules, but you can't run from the game. And I think so many people, they're so rigid sometimes that they miss a bigger audience or a bigger way to influence people because of their own principles, not realizing they can go into those situations and liberate without having to use the word Jesus or God or whatever, but yet still have a massive impact as if God is working through them in a beautiful way. Like I'm of the full, I'm in full alignment with that. Cause
Right.
I think, did you see Sound of Freedom yet?
No, not yet.
Oh man. Now this is a weird kind of analogy, but Tim Ballard, he's the person that the movie's about. And essentially, he's fighting these sex traffickers and these pedophiles that kill and rape and sell children. It's insane. But what he does is he'll actually like become like a pedophile, not like literally, but to get on the same level of these guys, he has to literally
Like get into the mindset.
not only get into the mindset, man, he's got to like really go there and talk and act like this person. Otherwise, you get killed. So it's like, I think.
Wait, was that the one where he went into the prison?
That scene?
No, I watched a true story. I forget the name of it.
Well, yeah, a
where-
lot of interrogators have to do this.
Where
They
this-
have to actually act like they're bad to get on the side of the bad guy so
What?
that they reveal more intel.
I was thinking if
It's
it
a
was the
weird
same
analogy
one.
compared to your speaking, but I think it drives the
No,
point
I
home
get
of
what you're
like,
s- go ahead, go
It
ahead.
drives the point of like, you just got to play the game. Like, I believe for me, like entrepreneurship is a expression of spirituality. Like, the more money you can make and serve, the greater it is like for God and the universe and people's hearts. Like, it's like a spiritual thing. Now, do I come out and say that right up front? Not always.
Right.
But-
it's kind of like,
Wait-
dude, I'm going to pee. Can you keep talking to everyone while I pee real quick? And we'll
Yeah.
come back. I do
Yeah.
this all the time, by the way.
That's funny.
I need a little under the thing toilet. I would pause it, but since it's streaming,
Okay,
it will make
no worries.
two different clips. So
Yeah.
just keep going, everyone. Or you can remind everyone. We'll just air the whole thing.
Okay.
Keep saying what you were saying. Here,
Yeah.
Shadow.
I was saying like, when playing the game,
Shadow's with you.
don't be afraid of it. People want to run from the system, yet they don't realize that the easiest way to change it is from like the inside out. I was just talking with one of my good buddies, Nick, who his grandfather was murdered by policemen. And instead of his father building resent towards the system, his father, which would be the father or the son of the grandpa, went on to be a policeman. And I forget the ranks he rose to, but he rose to the high, almost the highest ranks. And the way he was able to do that was because he wasn't resentful and bitter and say, oh, fuck the system. He said, no, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to make right with this. I'm going to add my light to this darkness, so to speak. And he did. And he saved a lot of people, and he really rose up to success in that landscape. So I think it's really important for all of us to remember that, no politician, no person, no nothing is going to save you. And if you're a victim to your circumstances or the system's circumstances or whatever you want to call it, it's not serving you. So you have to find a bigger kind of reason that's beyond just your own ego. So welcome back.
I love it. But by the way, speaking of that, back in the day, I worked with a dude in the podcast 7 years ago and stuff, and he would have been like flipping out if I said I had to pee. Dude, you got to edit that out. You got to, and I'm like, no way. That might be where people are like, that was hilarious. Like, you just leave that. That's the best part. Like, I just keep it real.
Yeah, then they go pee too.
But it's like, just keep talking. But no, I know, like, as we're wrapping up too, what I wanted to get where that last point is, it's so crazy. You just made me think of something from all this that it didn't hit me as much. But with the levels, when you had that person fire themselves, you had to lose that money to then go to that next level. And it's the same also with different things with social media and stuff too. When there's a different levels of your business where I would say, and you would know how to coach people the most. Don't get overly carried away in this message that's going to push people away yet as you're like first building up clientele. You know, it all depends.
100%.
And then as you're getting to a certain level, it's weird because then if you're like, all right, now I've built this, and then now I really want to build up where I'm influencing and sharing what I really believe in, and this message also has to bring in revenue.
Yep.
Then it has to get to a point to where there's only one you are really stepping more into you, where you got to be willing to actually lose people again.
100%.
You might have thousands of followers unfollow you.
100%.
And then
This just happened to me.
On YouTube, but then all of a sudden it's crazy because the followers, I had 1 month where 2 months they drop, but the engagement has been like quadrupling. So it's like the wrong people that left, the right people that left is like then on the back, but it takes the faith to know like on the back end, it's building up like exponentially 100%. As to where if you totally veered off from that, it's if someone's like, oh, only gauging on that or the statistics, like you're losing that, but not realizing
there's
you got to lose that to get to the point where you have 1 million, because that's where you're really sticking out and you're not just like everyone else out there.
100%. I made a
and
post.
It's not easy.
No, not at all. It's quite hard actually. Because the thing about social media is like when people send hate or unfollow you, it kind of like, depending on your personality type, like for me anyways, it kind of like jerks you sometimes. Like, damn.
Yeah, especially if it's someone that you kind of were connected with.
Oh, that's what I'm referring to. Yeah, not just a stranger, but like someone who actually knows you in real life. Like, so I made this post and like I had 4 people literally call me so concerned, like something was wrong with me. Because I said veganism is a red flag in men. Now, I didn't literally mean eating plant-based is a red flag.
Right.
What I meant was the ideology around. I was a vegan for 5 years.
Dude, how many people
so
unfollow you just from reading the hook line? Which is
it happens.
It's so dumb because like you're saying that, but it's like listen to the whole damn message.
Read the message, yeah. Because what I was saying
before you come to your conclusion.
Exactly. It's like they're just seeing the one little sentence. What if they read the thing? They'll realize what I. Exactly. They'll realize I'm saying veganism is a red flag, not because of plant-based. I'm saying veganism is a red flag because the ideology behind veganism is do no harm, kind. You know, you shouldn't eat animals. That's morally wrong. Yet, I don't really think there is an industry, whether it's soybeans or grass-fed animals, where you're not harming animals. Like I did a ton of research.
Plant-based diet, by the way,
isn't optimal for testosterone.
Well, for some people, it will actually kill.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people.
And for some people, it works very just like with everything. That's what I hate when you go there and say everyone do this.
Right.
It's like apple a day keeps the doctor away. My good friend that's like an Olympian bodybuilder with diabetes, he said, if I listened to that, I'd be dead.
Yeah, quite literally.
It's the same. Yeah, go ahead.
It's the same thing. So you know, and not to get too into the vegan thing, but it was just alluding to vegan men tend to be really kind, spiritual, super soft, but they have no backbone. So that's why they're a red flag to women. That's what I was saying. And I got so many concerned people calling me because they knew I was a vegan, like, and I used to preach that message. And they were just like, yo, what's going on? I'm just like, yo, dude, I don't believe in that anymore. Dude, a couple of them, like people I've known
It doesn't have to become a
people
religion.
I've known for 6-7 years unfollowed me. I couldn't believe it. And I was like,
that's that LA part of that LA crowd that you don't want
all
anymore.
of those people were from LA. Every single one of them. None of my hometown homies from Michigan calling me up. They're like, Anton's back, baby. Michigan boy.
That's right. And you know what? There's like truths in both of it. It's like, get the wisdom from it. And it's true. And most of them that unfollow them, they probably don't even believe in it.
Dude.
It's the herd mentality.
That's exactly it. I'm like,
have
you know the science? I was like, I've done the research on the science of
Right.
veganism. Dude, it doesn't work for most people. Now, can it not be optimal? For some people, it can be, but it's
Some
not
people,
really an
it can be.
optimal diet.
But if it works great for you and helps
Great,
you,
do it.
Go
It
for
worked great for me for
but
3
don't yell at
years.
everyone else to do that.
And for 3
It's
years,
the
I was
same with religion.
for 5 years.
If I'm like,
I was
you're
a
gonna go to
vegan.
hell if you don't believe in God.
Right.
Who's gonna want to follow?
Screw that.
Go ahead,
'cause it's not
go
real.
ahead.
For 5 years, I was a vegan. The first 3, amazing. The last 2, I got sick, man.
Yeah.
The vegan diet actually made me develop an autoimmune condition that I still deal with till this day.
You know what, Billy?
I know
told
Billy
me-
has the same thing. So does my brother. So does so
Yeah.
many of my other friends who are ex-vegans. So it's like, don't give me that shit. Now,
Dude, there's so many things Billy and I aren't, but at our core, we're
Same.
so alike.
right.
But all
same.
joking about he'll speak on the
The
alien
dimensions.
But I'm like, dude, it's interesting as hell.
It is interesting.
I can't really. I'm like, but how are you talking? I'm like, but none of it matters if anything.
Right,
Anyway, he
it's-
can joke with me because we have respect for each other. But ultimately,
and you respect the human.
he's rational.
Yeah, Billy's very rational.
I'm
for sure.
rational and you're rational. And
Right.
rational people can be able to not agree on everything and not make that hate you or
Exactly.
love you.
You don't have to. Exactly. And that's what I was telling my friends. I was like, look, guys, just because I'm a vegan doesn't mean we can't still be friends. Like,
dude,
what is going on?
That's when you realize I don't
want
want
to
those
be your
people.
friend. Exactly.
That's
where I
actually
ended up
really
being.
toxic.
So-
Like, that's
so-
like a cult when it's like
oh, very much
with,
so,
with
man.
anything.
Well, it's like
with
this
religion,
with politics.
with
It's like this
anything.
with religion.
Yeah.
This is how people are. It's still stupid.
You've
It
got to
doesn't
have
unite.
you've got to have believe your beliefs, but you also have to. I believe there's like like you said with the spiritual
There's
people.
wisdom everywhere. for
There's
sure.
wisdom in that, and the meditate and bringing that.
100%.
Then on the other side, there's wisdom in
There's
being
wisdom
a
in-
man and using your strengths.
Right. And
And too
Christianity
much of that
and-
is too much. Too much of this is too much.
Exactly. So when I did that post and I had these people unfollow me,
That's
I realized
funny.
there was an influx of unfollow, but then simultaneously I had some posts go viral and follows. I have more followers than ever right now, and I'm just really starting, and that's because people are sharing my message because a lot do agree. Majority agrees. There's a small minority that disagrees, but the minority tends to be really loud. See, this is what was happening.
That's what I said. The 2% make up like
Yeah.
98% of the noise
100%.
because they'll write 4 paragraph pages on like my YouTube comments.
Yep.
And like a lot of the other people like
like
I'm
it.
too busy half the time
Right.
to even to other than a couple fire
and
emojis.
this is how I know too.
People that have time to write a 4-page essay
Dude,
aren't
so
the
much-
majority of people.
100%.
But they take up the majority of the
They're so
comments,
loud.
so people think they're the majority.
Exactly. And I look at the data of my
It's a
page.
lie.
It's so funny. I look at the data of my page, and so many people don't like my stuff, but they save it. So I thought that was really interesting. They're scared to agree with this opinion publicly because of what people might think of them liking my polarizing view. But then those same people, not all of them, but some of them, they'll tell me in real life, like, dude, I love your content. I love your this. And I'm just like looking at my data. I'm like, well, you've never liked it. You never comment on it, yet you love it.
Right.
So it's interesting how that kind of happens, which I don't care that they don't like it. I just think it's an interesting mentality of like, ooh, that's fascinating to me because I'm not like that. If I
You're leading, but in a way,
But that's-
it's another responsibility of leadership
because I don't give a
you're
shit
going
about the
first.
engagement. This is
You're-
about
you're
the
going
message.
into the fire.
Exactly.
Because what will happen is it may take years down the line.
Probably will.
One of your friends from LA will be like, dude,
Oh, it's
You
already
got
that's already
you got me
happened.
thinking, and
Dude.
you help me with blah blah. Or it may.
I have
take
countless men that have
people
told
may
me that.
cut you off, and it
Yeah,
can take
that's
to where you
happens
get
too.
famous. But it's like,
Whatever.
if it helps
I don't give a
people,
shit. I
it
wanna help
helps
people.
But you don't. But you do. But to be honest, you do. You don't. Like, it doesn't stop you.
Right.
Because you're a human, you do.
Well,
I'm just
yeah.
letting everyone know, when you feel that, that's normal. But don't let it stop you from that, like, God-given
Yeah.
message, whatever, universe, whatever the hell you believe. I'm gonna say God-given because anyway.
Yeah.
I love everyone, but there's like an intelligent design given whatever your purpose is to put it out
Agreed.
morally and ethically,
Agreed.
and it takes courage. I'm still always working on it.
Yeah, same.
And then I'm balancing it too. Like, cussing doesn't bother me, but it's a challenge to me to try to not cuss a lot. And I like that challenge. And I look at stuff, I could every other word, F this, F that, and I could care less really with cussing. But if every other thing's like that, it
Right.
just starts to sound too stupid.
Right, and it can deprofessionalize your message.
Yeah, but also there's times where I've learned when I used to be like, no, I'm not. But now when I'm really feeling something and I'm in the moment and I'm going
It's
to
more
say
of a
it,
passion.
then I've learned to not stop myself because the message fully comes out the way I want it to be. Like,
I like that.
dude, I could be like
this.
God, like I believe in God, and I could be like, God is fucking amazing.
Right.
And I'll have Christians take that and write me and be like, blah, blah, blah. Dude, when I get to heaven one day, God would probably be like, man, I wish you didn't drop the F-bomb, but the passion you had in your heart and what you meant is better than someone that's up there being like,
Right.
God is so amazing. But in their heart, they're thinking, and I'm so much better than every one of you that cusses. And then I go home and
Right. It's
beat
an
my
it's an
kid.
intention thing.
Yeah, it's like, dude, like, what really is your passion, and don't let it stop you. So, Anton Wisbiski, over enunciated, CEO Squared, coming out this Friday. And we'll have everything in the show notes, the link to where they can get the book, your Instagram, all that good stuff, your new podcast. Do you want to just say where is a good place for people to connect with you, to be able to check out your book and stuff? Because do you have a webpage eventually now for it?
Yeah, so I do have a webpage for the coaching side of things. So AntonWisbiski.com.
ANTONWIZBI.
WIS.
Oh yeah, I wrote Z and underlined it.
Yeah. So Anton Wisbiski on all
wouldn't say it wrong.
platforms. Anton Wisbiski on all platforms.
WISBISKI.
Yeah. So yeah, AntonWisbiski.com, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, the whole thing. Thank you, Mark.
I love it. Thank you, my man. And listen, everyone, CEO Squared. And the takeaway here, there's a million, but heard it, you've got to give up to go up. And it's so corny to say these overplayed things, but there's a reason why you hear these sayings, because they're true. It's not easy. You got to be willing to lose and go through that pain and let your ego drop, to then be able to drop that weight and then go up to that next level. Not seeing those results right away, but we've seen it here time and time again. The more as long as you're following your true purpose, then you can never go wrong. Just keep pushing forward, never settle, never give up, and keep elevating beyond. Boom.
Boom.